Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 224. This is Carl.
This is Josh.
This is Justin.
This is Aaron.
Hey, look, we got a full house.
We got a
full house for the Warrior Lodge. So we're going to do an in-house Warrior Lodge as opposed to pulling in some of our usual listeners from the Patreon. Though we are going to go probably back and do that in about a month or so. But this episode we got a lot of things to discuss, and so we'll be bringing those up. But before we get started, first thing I wanted to throw out there was, speaking of Patreon, Todd Jarvis and Isaac Chang are two of our Patreon subscribers. We greatly appreciate your help, and so thank you so much for your support. If you want to find out more about how to support us through the Patreon, well, you can find that on our website at theindependentcharacters.com, or you can find it on our Facebook page and Facebook group, or you can just ask me.
Carl at theindependentcharacters.com.
Go to Patreon, or Josh at theindependentcharacters.com.
You get a phone book out. Yeah. He's in there.
Go to I'm not in the phone.
Maybe.
All right. So we got a series of questions we're going to go through. It's kind of a moderated discussion about 40K and some of the things that are going on in 40K right now, as well as a few other things. So we'll talk about that. But first, let's leap into our elite choice. And so let's go ahead and start with Justin, because he hasn't been on in a while. And people have been asking,
Yeah.
are you still around?
I mean, I didn't catch on fire,
Yeah.
so that's cool.
You might want to lower your mic here so the camera over there isn't right in your face.
Okay, stand by.
Yeah, don't break that. But this is the kind of quality content you're missing if you're not watching us in video on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
I just like to hide behind microphones. What can I say?
You do have a face for radio.
I do. I do. So,
that's better.
I mean, just I'm not on the show for.
You're
I'm
blocking
gonna help.
that camera with your head.
I'll help you out at the front.
So I was better slouching down, up high. Okay. Yeah, tough crowd.
Way to the
Welcome
listeners.
back, right?
Yeah. Hey.
At least I'm speaking into the mic and not chewing hard candy.
Justin.
So I was scrolling through the community page, the lovely community page, and I felt bad because scrolling like the day before or hours before, it was like 6 hours before coming over here. Of course, Matt Hudson has to go and post about having a personal event in his life, which I can relate to, but having that personal event and triumphing over a personal health problem. Not that I had that, but like just a life poke, right, of nonsense.
It's amazing how fast things can change.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that's the takeaway.
Priorities, perspective,
Yeah.
And to turn that, serious life event of having a stroke at the age of 47 and being doctor's orders to basically take 7 weeks off of work, I think a lot of people would have been like, I'm just going to watch Netflix and binge watch Black Mirror. And instead he decided to build up and paint this Imperial Guard army. And how cool is that? I mean, and it also helped with his fine motor skills, the doctors are saying.
Yeah.
So the proof that the hobby heals.
Yeah. A little physical therapy in there, a little emotional therapy at the same time.
That's pretty much as elite as it gets, and I'd love to play against that army.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Nicely done.
Looks great.
Yeah. That was me.
All right. I think that was a good call out.
And
that was a good call.
Good look on the healing process, brother. We got your back.
Aaron, why don't you go next?
All right. So, especially new for the 10th edition, the Tyranids have really taken center stage as one of the two primary armies. So I chose Matthew Klein. He has the new Norn emissary, and it's just great looking model. He did a great job painting it up. Not only that, he did a tutorial, a YouTube tutorial on it that he also posted.
Yeah.
So if you want to try to follow in his footsteps,
more
power to you. I don't think I could do it, but
nice, yeah.
It'll be good to watch.
It's a great model and really, really well executed.
Yeah.
Good paint job.
Fantastic work.
And
I
that's awesome.
Really like the highlight of the brain as well.
Yeah.
It really stood out.
You have to highlight the brain.
The blue brain.
You have to.
Aaron came very close
That's pretty cool.
to picking Ted Lidgard. Yeah, I had to run interference on that one. It's like you haven't been watching the show on YouTube, Aaron.
It's not that Ted doesn't deserve it, because he
does.
absolutely does.
It's that we're setting up some stuff before we start adding more people to the Hall of Legends. So hang in there, Ted. We're watching.
Your time.
Sorry,
we're watching.
Ted.
We're watching
from the shadows. Speaking of previous Hall members,
The man, the myth, the legend has returned.
I saw that.
Jeremy Wood.
And
with his upside down transfers.
painted something upside down.
That's not transfers, man. That's hand painted.
No.
Yes, that's freehand.
Yeah.
And he did it upside down because he didn't realize when it goes onto
for the orientation. Hey, man, I said it. It's for the pilots flying the planes up above. They need to know who's not their target.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man, he had to be so frustrated.
No, because it's
really good, though.
Really quick to do that, right? It's just, there.
Don't you say it's a couple trains.
just
That one's gone. I can't do that one anymore. It's gone.
No, that had to be.
That kind of mistake could get you removed from the Hall of Champions.
That means
he would find his way right back.
You know what? I mean, I'm going to Australia in March, so I would very much like to go see Jeremy Wood's like displays in person. So we'll see.
You guys have not met. You've never been to Australia?
No,
right.
This is my first time.
Right.
It's Warhammer World South.
Yeah, pretty much.
Way
south.
Super far south.
Josh, why don't you go next?
Yeah, absolutely. I went with Dan Menels, and he did an incredible Venators Necromunda game.
Yeah, I knew this was going to.
Which also doubles as some Inquisitor 28 stuff for them. So it's a great looking warband, incredible conversions, just really nicely executed. Love every model that's in this gang. He's got a couple more he's adding to it, but what he has here is just absolutely gorgeous. And
using that vampire
as
the basis for that.
But it's
that leader.
That's what it
There's
is.
all the bits there, but
idea.
it's very like Blenjitsu. It's very Necromunda. It's very Inquisitor all at the same time. It's just checking all those boxes and just beautifully done. So really, really nicely well done.
Yeah. That's a beautiful,
really nice choice of colors too.
Yeah.
Really nice. Yep.
Speaking of nice choices of colors, I went with Bill Tiegler and his Tyranids. The color palette on these makes them feel incredibly organic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I love the use of the slime effect he did on the, I think they're now called Von Ryan's
Rippers,
not lictors. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
baby lictors.
Yeah, they're baby lictors basically. I mean, they look like lictors, but he used like that slime effect, which is just fantastic.
What's the Ugu?
Yeah, the UHU glue.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm sure that's what he used, but maybe not.
But Justin, if you look at like the tail there, you can see where he went through the effort of having it shade into the different colors.
Yeah.
I mean,
green, the red.
That's just
nice little color contrast there with the greens and the reds. And I like the subtle green too. It's not like a slap you in the face green. It's more of like
mine's a slap you in the face green.
Yours is pretty green, but
but this is really nice. It looks believably organic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also the bases too, like the subtle use of like the rusty oranges and stuff.
Yeah,
really,
because this is one of the problems I have with my bases on my Tyranids. My Tyranids, like my whole backstory for them, where they were like,
eating something,
a splinter fleet that had broken off from the other fleet after it had been like cut off by whatever, and they landed on this planet that had a lot of swamp, and they adapted to the swamp, and blah blah blah, and so they look swampy. And they match the swamp bases, which is the problem.
Green and brown Tyranids on green and brown bases.
Right.
Yeah.
There's not like a breakaway from
there.
Yeah. And this is the first army I fully painted. I'm still really happy with it, but
I'm sure it would look great on a swamp table.
You know what?
You would never see them.
Yeah. And not only that, I guarantee you if that was at a store, you'd forget some of those models. At the store. So that. And then, I wanted to add, we're going to add a new quick section here, which we're calling Shell's Kiss, which is like chef's kiss. That's what she wanted. I said I'd put in the sound of like a chef going.
Not Harlequin kiss, huh?
But so Shell, as we were picking out stuff this evening, she's like, well, can I pick one out? I said, you're going to be on the show? Oh, I don't want to be on the show. She doesn't like to. She's been on a couple of times, but she doesn't like to be on the show. But she very much watches and actually interacts on the Facebook group regularly.
She's an active community member.
So Shell picked Kristen Carey, and the Tyranids that Kristen Carey did quite a while ago, actually, because this had stuck with her. And what she liked about these Tyranids in particular was the contrast between the black and white of the models, and it just really stood out for her, and she felt they looked really menacing. And she said, and the quote was, "They stand out in a sea of green and blue. Everyone else does something green and blue." Yeah, and honestly, when I first looked at these, I was like, "Oh, those look cool," and then I kind of moved on. And then when Shell picked them, I was looking at them closely, and I'm like, "Oh, there's actually quite a bit of color in these."
Yeah.
It's really easy to do, huh? Like in this world we live in, where you're just scrolling, and like you almost it's so easy, but to focus in on something, like even if it's not like the best painted thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like this is, I'm not saying that about this. Like this is phenomenal. Like you zoom in and there's like subtle greens in the black.
In particular,
reds
like
and blues.
when you look closely
Yeah,
at
look
like
at
the
that.
claws
Yep.
and the blades. Yeah. And then you see the blues, and because her first joke was like, well, everything I'm gonna pick is gonna have purple in it. And then I was like, oh, you know what? There's some purple in this.
There's purple
If you
in
look
there,
at the
yeah.
flesh parts.
It's like the black's highlighted to purple, which is a cool little like chitinous kind of
Yeah.
sheen to it, and then there's a little green in the bits in between the bones of the wings.
Yeah, and there's a lot of detail on the bone armor too.
These stood out to me.
Yeah, super
when I
cool.
saw them a couple weeks ago.
So that's interesting because like Shell doesn't have, like doesn't have like a painter's eye, right? Like Justin and you do, Josh. Like she's, for lack of a better word, like she's a civilian in the world of, professional Warhammer professional, I think, quote. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, we have looked at this for years and been inundated with it.
Yeah.
She has sat on the sides and watched it, and she gets involved and kind of steps in and out. But for this to catch her eye, like that tells you, we may sometimes not see the forest for the trees,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
And she's looking at the forest going, oh, I like that.
Right,
Why do
yeah.
you, and I had to tease it out of her. What do you like about that? Oh, why does it's cool? And I go, okay, tell me why it's cool, and so that was the quote that she gave me. But
But on the
she
other
loved
side of that though, too, is like, that's the number one thing at our scale that we're working at is contrast, right? And that
Yeah.
can be a color situation like that. It could be the bases versus the model, but like what catches eyes from 5-6 feet away is that
That's
nice
critical.
contrast, right?
That's critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to have that ability to like at a glance, you see it, wow, and then you want to go in closer and look at that. So
Right. That's a good point. That's a very good point. And sometimes those things get lost. Like, for example, I was reading a thread on a forum recently. There's a throwback because like I didn't look at forums for a long time. And I used to love forums. Like I'd be on all kinds of forums. And I was looking at this thread and somebody was complaining about the single pose, the monopose GW models now. And they're like, oh, people of course are like, well, you could just take some hobby snippers to them and change,
Step
blah,
them
blah,
up
blah.
and
And
stuff.
but I hear what they're saying. Like
Yeah.
the old Marines, you could pose in a bunch of different ways, and you still can do it a bit with these, but they are somewhat limited.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, but then I set it down, and my guys look just like the guys apart, and I'm like, the thought in my head was, you're never gonna see that. You're never gonna see that. Like once you're actually in a game of 40K and you're playing it, like you don't notice that like these two guys in that unit are posed the same way.
Yeah. Yep.
Nobody noticed that.
Especially your mob of 30 orc boys.
Oh, even Marines, but yeah.
6 of them are identical.
Not unless they're all exactly the same. Then you're like, okay, there's something wrong.
Well, okay, yeah, that would look weird.
Yeah.
That would look weird.
If you somehow sorted it so that you had 10 squads and each squad had all the same
Yeah.
pose, it would stand out.
So, but it's interesting that you bring that up because then here's a case where that thing pops out at you and then you take a closer look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
You
But
get
in
that
general,
pop of contrast and it makes you want to look more. And then you see all the extra details in there
Right.
and the attention and the love and all that.
right.
Yeah, it's like highlighting the face to draw your eye to the face and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's the
So,
invitation to explore it further.
that's it.
That's a sexy way of saying that. That is. All right. Well, listen, on that note,
It's the open offer to touch my toys. You know?
but ask first.
Yes.
You always want consent before touching the toys.
1,000%.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come right back, and then we're going to go into hobby progress and games played. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So now we're going to kick it off with a little bit of hobby progress, which we're all lacking. But
It's a good reason for that.
I think we're going to have a little bit of a different kind of discussion here than we normally have during the hobby progress thing because 3 of the 4 of us, Aaron, Josh, and myself, went to what used to be an annual event for us, but COVID kind of threw that for a loop and yada, yada. And we do this thing we call Geekend. And we used to do it annually. We would rent a large house somewhere. We'd have 10 to 20 guys come. It's boys only. Shell asked why she couldn't come and play board games with us. And I says, boys only.
She's on the group.
No girls allowed. GURLZ backwards.
Girls.
Yeah.
We're totally going to get canceled.
One girl's okay.
The problem is, and everybody loves Shell, and she
Yeah.
enjoys playing. But the problem is, then Shell comes, and then Steph's going to want to come, and the next thing you know, we could do a couples geek, and I think that would be cool. But regardless, this is a tradition that we have had amongst our friends for many years.
Yep.
And last weekend was this event, and it went over 5 days this time because that was the minimum we could rent this house.
Yeah. That was a lot of games.
It was a lot of games.
It was
It was a lot of games. It takes a lot of preparation. It takes a lot of setup. In particular, good thing Doug organized all these. I'm the one that typically organizes everything. Cheyenne did a great job of jumping in and helping with organize the food situation. But it is a lot going on as we lead into this. So no real hobby progress there. But we did play a lot of games there. And so Justin, you're the only one that didn't go. Did you do any hobby progress recently? Or
I did actually.
Ooh, okay. Let's go to
I
you
did.
first then.
I mean, a lot of my hobby progress has been to just still cleaning off stuff and getting stuff organized and going like, oh, that's in that box. Cool. You know, because it was that
When you
mad.
say getting stuff off of stuff, it's the burn residue.
Just, all the, I mean, I went
house
through all my
burned
paints
down.
are now all washed up and cleaned and organized, and I haven't put them to model yet.
For people who don't listen normally, your house burned down
Correct.
several months ago. Fortunately, most of your 40K stuff and Warhammer stuff,
Too much of it
gaming
survived.
stuff survived. Too much of it survived. And so you're still dealing with some of the ramifications of that.
Yeah, it's also been really hot lately, so it's hard to like be motivated to go into a garage and
Organize
stuff,
Yeah,
but I've put a big chunk in it.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
And my roommate is like super handy with his job, so he actually built a workbench that shoots off into like a little airbrush. So I have a little airbrush studio in the
That is
garage
awesome.
now.
Rad. Nice.
Rad. We're getting a pool table soon in the garage. That's because we have a pretty big garage. So I got the audio video stuff handled for that, but the pool table that's going to double for put a board on it, and
Now you got a Warhammer.
now I got a Warhammer
Yeah,
table.
game table. Yeah.
But I did manage. It was
You
funny.
could actually do two based on the size of Warhammer.
Probably
now.
could. Yeah, probably could. We're getting like an 8-foot table too. So yeah. But I spent some time, like I wanted to get, because my studio's now kind of in my bedroom, just in a little corner desk. And I wanted to kind of do away with the acrylic paint holders that are all cluttering my surface and go more wall mounted. And I didn't want to put a million holes in my wall with those little acrylic nail polish holders.
Yeah.
So I took some panels of wood and just happened to have this really cool, like teal color latex paint laying around, so I painted up some of those and then screwed the nail polish holders into them, 2 screws and a stud, boom, and I've got like 100 paints on the wall.
It's getting harder and harder for me not to make an OnlyFans joke at this point. You said
2
you have a
screws and a
studio
stud.
in your bathroom or in your bedroom. You have almost 2 screws and a stud.
Where's the
And I'm
casting
sit-
couch?
And I'm sitting here going, oh,
I mean, my feet are kind of nice,
you could have you airbrushing your toenails.
dude. Dot them eyes. baby.
I'd subscribe to that.
All right, yeah.
Literally make hundreds of dollars.
Now I just remembered why I haven't been on the show in a few months. It's all coming back. I missed you guys too. But so yeah, I knocked that out, and then just mostly been assembling stuff. Like I'm ramping up to actually putting paint to model,
Okay.
But in my I'll get home and be like, I'm just gonna build this. I'm gonna build that. So I've managed to build a great unclean one.
Nice.
Got him ready to go. I built up a bunch of Gene Stealer cult models because I want to do that army. Still not decided if I want to do a full 2K or not. But knowing me, I probably will. But I want to start with maybe 1,000 point army. Maybe 1,500 points, and just paint it all at the same time, crazy style like I normally do. So I managed to build up like Squad of the Initiates and the Primus and Magus and some of the character models. I'm probably going to end up buying a lot of stuff off my buddy Dan Osborne, because he bought all that, and he's like, dude, I've wanted to do this project forever. I just don't have the time. I'm like, well, I don't have the time either, but let me get that.
But I'll take it.
I'll take it.
It's too busy painting Titans.
Too busy, or some kind of stompy robot with Dan, and sadly started digging through my chaos stuff because I've been listening to this podcast lately, or a YouTube channel, blog for the Blood God, and this guy's really good at like making you want to play and paint chaos and corn and stuff like that. So the new Chaos Basement, but I don't want to step on your toes either.
That's
you know?
fine.
But like I have Abaddon
We've
already
been Chaos
built.
Brothers forever.
I know.
He's got 7 toes. You could take it the 8th. It's fine.
It's a big bad world out there.
Yeah.
I know.
there's always.
But the new range of models is so good. Like I built up that dark commune.
Right. This is what I was saying.
So
this is
good.
what I was saying. Like the new Chaos Space Marine models are sick. I threw all my old ones away.
They're so good. The new
okay,
Possessed.
they're in a plastic bag somewhere. Like, why bother?
The new
why
Chosen.
bother? They're all so good.
They're so good, dude.
You keep them for Apocalypse. That's why you bother.
I popped them off all the bases. I was like, I'm done with these guys. They're not even worth it, dude. The comparison, when you look at the old Chaos Space Marine compared to the new one, you're just like, oh, I see. One is the difference between what was it's like the difference between Lego and Playmobil.
Yeah, times of
for the parents out there.
The original Chaos Space Marines are from like 02 or something.
Yeah,
there's just no different. Like
God, I'm old.
Just no comparison. So
at least I'm not as old as Adon, but I'm old.
Thank God. We love you, Adon. But yeah, so wow. I'm done. I'm gonna stop talking now. That's my hobby progress.
Josh, you got some stuff on here.
I was gonna say Don would subscribe to your foot channel.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah, he would.
Wow. Unanimous support. I did start working on a model, and this one, my third and final Warlord Titan for Adeptus Titanicus. Final for this Legio.
For this week.
No, 3's good. I mean, I've got so much stuff that I'm building a corrupted Warlord Titan. So this one, I've got the a couple Lord of Change heads from Carl and Jody, and so I'm kind of doing some green stuff modeling on those to attach these Zinchian heads to there. I've got a bunch of like Zinch sigils. I'm taking some of the Spirit Host models from Age of Sigmar and using that as kind of just more of like a warp shield.
Sweet.
Just kind of showing that the active possession going around that.
That could be really cool.
Which, like the vision in my head is pretty clear, and I hope it turns out well. I've got the Titan mostly built. Now I'm going to start doing the actual corrupted components to that. Armor plates are ready for painting. I'm going to chaosify them a little bit further just with that corruptedness. But I have got a event coming up in November that G3 is doing up in Chico, which a couple of us are going to. I'm not sure if you're going
I
to.
don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off or not. We'll see.
But it's they rented a hotel up there. They've got a whole room dedicated for just a weekend of Titanicus there. With amazing narrative stuff, and the whole thing that they're doing there is Titans assaulting a spaceport. So they've like 3D printed like Battlefleet Gothic styled spaceships in 8mm scale, which is pretty incredible.
It's crazy cool.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to take a ton of pictures when I get up there. But I finalized my list this week, and this third Warlord is part of that. So I wanted to get that going.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do want to go. Every time you talk about it, I get
make it happen.
I just feel like I also, it's interesting. Like I understand why Shell feels this way when playing 40K. It's like I am not super practiced at Adeptus Titanicus, and so I don't want to like slow
You'll be
people
fine.
down. Oh, I'm going then.
So I went last year to they had a November event last year.
I feel like if I don't go, I'm going to be upset I missed out.
Yeah.
So I need to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially since I'm not doing Adepticon.
And I think Brian and Austin are both going also. So it'll be four of us going.
All right, I'm going.
No choice. Yeah.
I'm going. All right. Cool. I don't really have any hobby progress. I will say that my Ravaged Star stuff from Mini Wargaming Dave's Kickstarter arrived. And the stuff looks super
a pile
good.
of opportunity.
I got to take a look at that. Is it the Restic stuff or is it styrene?
It's no, it's hard. It's hard
plastic. Okay.
Yeah. And listen, okay. I want to be careful about what I say here because first off, I love Mini Wargaming Dave. The stuff looks great. That's not where it arrived, and I was like, oh my God, this is so much stuff. Why did I do this to myself? Why did I order all this stuff? And then, Dave reaches out to me and he's like, hey, you interested in playtesting the rules? I'm like, yeah. I just got my stuff. He's like, oh, perfect. And I'm like, oh, okay.
It's a good cause.
It's a great cause. I mean, the stuff's fantastic. I'm actually very interested in what they're putting together. And just, what am I doing to myself?
The concept for it's cool. Like I ended up talking to him for like an hour or two.
I kept telling you to go over there and talk to him.
Yeah,
right?
like I did a lot. And it's really just a neat concept.
But I'm like, do I need another war game? I need another war game like I need a hole in my head.
Yeah. You need to catch up to the rest of us. I'm just saying.
Whatever. Whatever, dude. We'll talk about all that later in this episode. But yeah, so that stuff did arrive. I've looked through some of it. I'm just blown away. On top of that, another board game Kickstarter arrived, and all this stuff has arrived like I ordered like a long time ago.
It's all stuff you ordered 3 years ago.
So I'm
before
like,
the
I'm
COVID
out of
bump
work.
thing.
It's not like I'm buying this stuff.
Right.
It's just showing up. I already bought it, but the Ravaged Star stuff looks so good, but it showed up and I was just like, why did I do this to
Well, you
myself?
have an entire
because it's amazing looking.
Well, I was going to use it for some of my Chaos stuff.
Yep.
And there is one particular model that actually made me buy the entire line. But I don't know.
I was gonna say that there's some in there that look like obliterators that are amazing.
No, they're so good. That was
They're
the other
so
one.
You have my
Yeah.
interest.
I'll show them to you after the
Yeah.
show, but you can see here that they're fantastic.
They are.
It's great stuff.
Cool.
So okay, Aaron, you got any?
Yeah, just barely any. So because of the point change that recently happened, which we'll talk about more, I had to make more purifiers for my Grey Knight army. So flamers.
That's right. You bought all his Grey
got a
Knights, right?
discount.
No, no, these are my old Grey Knights.
Yeah,
that
he's had them.
Right.
Your-
Justinius.
your old Grey Knight.
How can
Yes.
I forget?
Yeah, and for those who weren't here,
Oh, that was
8
so many
years
years
ago.
That was funny. Wait, I painted this.
We our local Games Workshop store at the time was selling off some of the armies, and I think they weren't supposed to,
I don't think they were supposed to.
but they were
They were
selling
closed, so
off.
what are they going to do? Fire them?
They were selling off some of those armies and terrain and stuff, and Aaron ended up buying a bunch of those Grey Knights, and this was before.
Yeah, you called me and you're
Or-
like, they're selling these.
And I think it was
before.
before we really knew Justin.
I think so.
He was new to the group.
You were new to the group, and then Aaron brings him out, and we didn't know Justin had worked at that GW many years before that, and had painted those Grey Knights that Aaron bought.
One of them was named Justinius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Playing
So
the game, I looked down. I'm like,
that guy looks familiar. I painted this guy. I thought that was funny.
that was funny.
Small Valley.
Almost as funny as a garrote and a rhino that you didn't know about.
Yep.
Was it a garrote or
No,
a orc?
they were orcs. A bunch of orcs.
I told my son about that. My son was like, "How did he not know?" I'm like, "He didn't know. It was easy to not know."
Who takes the rhino and goes like this?
Yeah.
You
Not
know?
only
They
that,
wouldn't- yeah.
they
There
were
were
glued
so
in,
many
but
magnets to keep it closed. It was.
I thought it was
holy
glued
crap.
shut.
Yeah, it was totally glued shut.
Stupid loopy. All right. Anyway,
Speaking of Adon, he's
That's
texting me.
yeah. That's
Uh-oh.
speak of the devil.
Yeah.
What? So you just built a few more Grey Knights.
Yeah, I
To
just
fill in some spots.
filled in some spots because I have a ton that are painted that we have to rebase.
Let's leap into games played then, because we really didn't get a whole lot in the way of hobby progress. But Josh, why don't you start, because you made a note in here that I want to just jump into as well.
The 140K adjacent game that
Absolutely.
played in Geekend, of the many games that were played over that 5-day period, was I played the Commander version of Magic the Gathering 40K specifically.
As did I.
Yeah,
I did as well,
you're in the game
separately.
there. Yep.
Did a cat run out and pee on you?
Did not.
No?
Is
You
that
don't
a
smell like
thing?
cat pee? Okay.
I haven't played Magic in 30 years. Like,
I would agree that I have also not played Magic in 30 years.
and like, so Magic was never my thing. I played a couple times with friends as a kid, like right when it first came out, like
Right.
31 years ago or however long it is now. But played a little bit back then. Never really got the bug for it, and I hadn't played since. But the 40K version was fun. I played the Necron deck, being a Necron player.
Oh,
So
you and I
did
played
I.
in the same game.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. We were playing in the same game.
Yeah,
And I played the Chaos deck.
yeah.
Shock.
Pretty slick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the art on those
The
cards.
art's incredible.
It's all new.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's fantastic.
It was
I'll
neat
show
how
you.
it brought the 40K universe to life in a completely different game system.
Yeah.
Like,
It felt thematic.
It felt thematic.
Yeah.
So
Oh, the Necrons played them.
I was gonna say, how did the Necrons play for you?
They keep coming back.
Every time you kill a card,
I did real well.
to come back.
They played really badly for me,
Oh.
much like 40K. So it all fit.
they tend to go well for me.
Well, listen, Josh knows how to manipulate these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, I too, last time I played Magic was 30 years ago. I remember when it came out, we were big into role playing games, and we would go to conventions for role playing games. And Magic had come out, and it was everybody's playing in the hallway, and you'd have to step over these people. Like, get out of my way, I finally gave it a try. Years after that, my brother-in-law worked for Wizards of the Coast for a while. He put himself through college playing Magic professionally.
Wow.
He's a very talented player. That being said, it never really, thank God I didn't get bit by that bug. And then I played this game, and while Bill sat there and helped me, because Bill has played a lot.
yeah.
I didn't feel like, boy, I got to run out. I wish I'd bought all the other decks.
Yeah, agree.
Like I felt like, boy, I kind of don't want to sell my deck because it's cool and like I like the pictures on it, but I don't see myself breaking this thing out and playing.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's just not my thing.
I didn't realize it, so I was asking Bill after that game. I was like, oh, like, and didn't realize that it was a limited print run. Like it was the one run and it's done. It's like I'm not going to spend $175 on a Necron deck. Like it's just not worth it for me. I'd rather put that elsewhere. But it was fun. I ended up playing 2 games of Magic.
Okay.
One was 40K, one was Lord of the Rings, and I was like,
oh, you played the Lord of the Rings,
yeah,
too.
and that was the most Magic I'd played in 30 years. But it was fun and interesting. But I've got enough games. Like I got enough games I need to jump into. That,
I mean, but again, I don't feel like
that rabbit hole doesn't have a bottom.
Yeah, Aaron, we'd be lucky to play this. Like, there's other things I would rather play than this.
Yeah, so I picked up all 4 decks. So if you guys ever do want to jump in, I have them.
Sure.
I got bit by the Magic bug at an early age. It was high school, and I spent way too much money on it. But I was never good at building decks, so the Commander decks are my sweet spot. 40K, I had to buy all 4.
And I would say I don't know enough about Commander versus this versus that. I'm just like, whatever. This was not.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like, and I did okay. Like, well, Bill did okay playing for me. Like he was helping me, pretty heavily because quite frankly, Magic is way more complex than it used to be too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 500,000 cards out there or whatever there is. Who knows? But
did you guys hear about Post Malone buying the One Ring?
Yeah,
$2 million.
$2 million bucks. But it's just not. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. So I'm glad I'm glad I played it.
Yeah,
I'm glad I own the deck. Maybe I'll sell it at some point. It's not going to be worth the One Ring price.
No,
right.
But it was fun, and I'm glad I own them all. But
it was 40K adjacent.
I'm okay not playing it all the time.
Okay, but we did play, and this is where we're going to deviate a little bit here because Justin, you haven't really played any 40K lately, right?
No.
Okay.
Well, just keep watching YouTube battle reports.
Well, we are going to.
Have you played a game of 10th yet? Just
nope.
Curious. Okay,
you got it. You're killing me.
Let's make that happen. We'll get together for a game.
Yeah, because it plays pretty quick. It's pretty good. I'm certainly happy with it, but
yeah.
As Jeff and I have discussed, my opinion on things really doesn't sway him because I kind of like everything. That being said, we did play a lot of board games, and usually we are a miniature gaming bunch of guys in group, but we do play a lot of board games as well. And for me, I was always very late to the board game scene. Like
you were very reluctant.
I found board games to be boring, quite frankly.
You had very specific tastes in
and I still do.
Yeah.
I still do. Like the theme of a board game has to match the way the game plays, and there's certain things that I don't care for, and yada yada. But
so you don't like everything?
No. I mean, this is
come on, Jeff.
But I do. I had a big old conversation with Jeff about this. Just
you like Magic?
Jeff,
just Games Workshop.
I like Ahsoka. The Star Wars show is going. I go, Jeff, it's terrible acting. Okay. I go, you know what's awesome? And he goes, what? I go, liking everything.
Makes life so much better.
Go through life so happy. Yeah, this wasn't great, but get something out of it. I mean, occasionally I don't like that. Anyway, this is not about that. This is about board games in general. And so we played a lot.
Yeah.
I must have played 8 different board games over the course of maybe even 9 different board games over the course of the time I was there.
Probably would have doubled it had you not played Twilight Imperium.
Yeah. Finally played Twilight Imperium for
time intensive.
That was a day.
that was 11 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I've always wanted to play it. I own it. Everything was still in baggies.
Oh, you played your copy?
Yes. I got to play it with 3 or 4 other people. I'm glad I did. Mm-hmm. It was fun. Maybe once a year I'll play it. I think that I would rather play shorter. There are other games that I can get more out of that I can play in. I could have played 2-3 games in that time and had more enjoyment.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was cool. And it was cool to see how it all worked. And it's not as complicated as it seems, when you actually are starting to play it. So Sky, myself, Doug Johnson,
Steve
and
Cheyenne.
Oh yeah, so I think we had 5 people.
5. Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun, but it did take, I mean, that's 11 hours, including guys had to leave to go help prep for dinner. We took a break for food, so I mean, all in all, probably 8 solid hours of play. That's a long time to play.
That's still a really long game.
But I was determined to play it.
Yeah.
So I got some Twilight Imperium in. I played some Cthulhu Death May Die, which is
yes.
and for me, and listen, I'm going to kind of sidetrack here and sound a little wimpy. I just saw this comedian that was talking about alpha males and the whole alpha male thing, and he goes, like, we're all binary. You're either like a complete warrior or just a total wussy.
There's no in between.
There's no in between. He goes, I don't think so. But anyway, so Doug, Neil, and myself had played a lot of Cthulhu Death May Die. It kind of became our thing, and Lars played with us, and occasionally we'd bring other people in to play with us, but we were working our way through each scenario. And when I kickstarted that, I got the giant Cthulhu with that, and there is a scenario that goes along with that model where you have bases all around him, and you're kind of jumping from gate to gate to fight Cthulhu. And then your models actually get put on the giant model while you're fighting the parts of him to defeat him. And Doug and I had put this mission off for a long time because we wanted to complete all the missions in the seasons. And then we were going to do this as kind of the finale thing. And of course, Doug has passed. So myself, you, Josh, Campos, and Cheyenne, and Sky.
Yeah.
Because it requires 5 people. We played the big scenario. I brought the giant Cthulhu with us.
Sweet.
We played the big scenario. We won. I thought there's no way we'll win this.
It was not looking good, and then
we pulled it
off. Yeah,
and we defeated it. And then I went outside and got upset.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So it was good. What else did you play?
So many board games. I introduced a couple people to one of my favorite kind of strategy worker placement engine building games, which is Clans of Caledonia, which is a phenomenal game. Absolutely love it. It was a Kickstarter. It's hard to find now, but introduced that to Tom and Lars, both avid board game guys, and I think that was kind of one of the highlight games for both of them too, which was cool to hear that.
Yeah. I think one of them ordered it.
Yeah, if you can find it, it's an
I think
incredible game. It is definitely harder to find because it was a low publication.
Yeah.
I actually purchased it retail, but I don't think it was a broad release retail. I think it was mostly Kickstarter, and a couple retailers picked it up, but it wasn't a mass publication.
Yeah.
A lot of Death May Die. We ended up playing, I think, 3 or 4
of the scenarios.
playing with the different Elder Gods in there, and had a great time with that. The big spectacle we had was Cthulhu Wars.
Okay, so talking about board games, Cthulhu is a theme with me for board games.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Cthulhu Wars, we had 9 players.
Yes.
Because I had spent so much money to buy the 9-player rollout mat for it. It is a great game. I think 9 players is too many.
9 players is too many.
Yeah.
But it was
amazing
process,
and fun to have that game.
That many miniatures on the board with that many people around the table, and the spectacle. Like, I took a picture turn 1 and then I took a picture turn 2, and it was like, this was here, and then bam.
Yeah. The thing I will say about this, and this is what I learned that can be applied to like events at 40K and that kind of thing, is I will never do that again at that size without being incredibly familiar with the rules.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of I'd only played it once or twice before. I wasn't super strong on the rules. Had I been super strong and knew what, I could have kept people moving and going through their turns. But every army plays differently in that game, and your time between turns was just too long.
Yeah.
Like
With
Josh
9
would take a turn.
Yeah.
And then have to wait 10 minutes to take another turn. And that's too much.
Yeah.
Of being generous.
And that was, like for one of my turns, I would literally summon a guy.
Yeah.
Next time around, summon a guy.
And this is why I was trying to tell people, plan what you're going to do before it comes to you, and then people would wait until it came to them, and then, what am I going to do?
Yeah, and that's what, I mean, that's normal, especially in a big game, for people to get lost because they're having side conversations because it takes so long.
Mm-hmm. But this adds to it.
Yeah.
So I think never again. But that game at like 3 to 5 players, perfect.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to play that game again in a smaller scale.
I think you will love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked what it did mechanically, and brought the theme to life really well in the asymmetrical nature of everybody's playing with a different faction that's trying to summon their great old one. Really, really cool idea. Brought to life well, just way too big of a game.
Yeah. But
For everybody's first game
is a
also,
big thing. And
if everybody had 4 games under their belt and okay, maybe we could do a larger game faster.
Big party games are like Night of the Ninja. We played
That was fun.
Yep.
I can't remember the name of the game where we were voting on
I wanted to
as a
call
team.
it Spectrum, but I don't.
That's
not what
I'll,
it is.
I'll
yeah.
figure out what it is and I'll make a note in the show notes that says this is the game we couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But you're trying to, man, it's just even a hard concept.
You get a clue, and this clue is it's
Light
a scale.
to dark.
Yeah, light to dark. Right. There's this kind of sliding scale. There's some association between the two things, and the player who is up is trying to get their team to guess on a 180-degree scale where this kind of dial lands, and you spin the dial randomly. Only the person giving the clue knows where it is. So given that there's this sliding scale between the relationship of two things, you're trying to pick the perfect clue to get people to land exactly
I'm trying.
where it is.
Okay, so for example,
it's hard to explain.
you draw a card and it'll say, okay, the topic here is cheap to expensive, right?
Okay.
And then you'll randomly spin this dial. You're the only one that sees it. And you see that, okay, the thing has landed like 75% towards expensive, right?
Okay.
Now you're trying to get everybody on your team to guess in that 75 percentile towards expensive. So you're like, okay,
40K, not golf.
you could say something like that. Or, yeah, that's actually a pretty good one. You
Numbers
could have like
are not
5
allowed.
sentences. Yeah, so you can't say 40K.
Oh, Jesus.
That's the only cat.
Warhammer.
Numbers, Warhammer versus, Games Workshop games.
You
versus
can't
golf.
say 75% and be like, oh, okay, I know where that is.
Right. So, I mean, in our case, it was like 30% towards cheap. And Josh was, I think it was you that said like Target.
Yeah.
Like shopping at Target or whatever. It's like, okay, where do we think?
Which then there was
that-
interesting like demographic breakdown of the group of like Southern California, and
Yeah.
like you and I were on the same page, but Travis and some of the other guys were like, oh, they think Target is a
more expensive,
classier joint.
Yeah. Than we think. And so then everybody sets their guess and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, it's a great party game.
It's a lot of laughter.
Night of the
lot
Ninja was a
laughter.
great party
That
game.
was a good. Yeah, except Tom. Oh my God.
Agent of Chaos.
Oh, Tom
Absolutely
couldn't
Agent
even
of
follow.
Chaos.
Couldn't even follow his thinking.
Agent of Chaos.
Trying to think of what other games we played. Man, everybody tends to bring a lot.
Dwellings of Elder Vale.
Yep.
That one was
a
that was a
fun
lot
game.
of fun. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. You guys both got on that with me too. Yeah. So many good games.
Yeah.
On the side with the Dawn, I played Flamecraft, Dice Miner, and Picamino. And then when he got home, he bought 2 of them. He texted me. He's like, "Hey, I bought these 2." So it
High
went well.
praise. Yeah, nice.
These Geekend things tend to be the kind of thing where, I go and I play games that I don't normally play, and then Shell sees things starting to arrive from Amazon before I even get home.
I added a couple things on the list, like mid game.
Yeah.
Got to play Dune Imperium. I was like, I really enjoyed it.
See, I haven't played that yet.
Yeah.
And Aaron got that for me as a gift, and I haven't played that
I want to
yet.
play that.
Yeah.
You guys played Lost Ruins of Arnak, which is great game.
We did. Lost Ruins of Arnak is quite good. I've played it since then a couple times, and I very much enjoy it. If you buy that game, know that it comes with no game organizer at all. It's just all the components
Just
tossed into a
loose
box.
in the box. It's
Which
ridiculous.
I've never seen that. Well, I haven't seen that in many, many years.
Bagged up, just loose.
Yeah.
They're some are in bags, but they're just loose in the box.
Aaron was nice enough to
pile of
3D
stuff.
print me an organizer
Nice,
from
yeah.
Thingiverse. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a board game event for
Extravaganza.
4 to 5 days.
It was awesome.
And that was what took up all of our hobby. And then the rest of that time was making it up to the spouses that weren't there. So we had a good time. And then Doug's East Coast gaming buddies showed up.
I saw that.
Yeah, I introduced them to Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Good dudes.
We played
Awesome.
through that. Yeah,
Nice.
so we had a good time. So so that's where all of our gaming went this go around. I'd like to say we played even more 40K adjacent games, but we really didn't. Though this did spurn an idea
We
for
all
me
took
for a show.
40K armies for
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you guys were supposed to play.
Well, have you met Doug Johnson?
I have.
There
Doug
was a
Johnson
plan.
of Table War fame, who also happens to be a very good 40K player, by the way, has made the top 12 at Adepticon a couple times, was organizing it was very confusing what we were supposed to bring initially, but it was going to be this surface battle with also battles below the surface. And so, if you brought models that were too big to go below the surface, well, they couldn't go down there. And so I had brought a Tzeentch demon army that I thought would be fun, and everybody just played board games. We never got around to setting that up and playing it. And I kind of knew it. This is kind of the thing where we don't bring 40K to it typically.
Yeah.
And we tried to tell Doug that.
Right.
And he insisted he wanted to do it.
With 10th
we didn't
coming
do it.
out, I'm sure he just had a little bit of excitement in his blood. And
Sure.
Absolutely.
It's just, this is more about the socialization aspect. And so this event, by the way, also, not only are we playing games, the place we stayed is far from any store.
Yeah.
Like you're 45 minutes to an hour from any store and then back. And so the town doesn't even have like a local Safeway you can just go to. It's like you'd have to go pretty far.
BYOB.
So we bring everything.
Lots of it, yeah.
We have meals planned. People, cook. We had one night that was like Italian night, one night that was like Asian style food night, one night that was Mexican food night.
And it's all good food.
And it's
great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Everybody brings a dish. They're organized to. I'm going to provide a main thing main course this dish and a dessert this time, and then people who don't want
spreadsheet, right?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
I imagine,
There is,
yeah.
and people who don't want to cook, well, you get to clean up.
Yep. I always sign up for cleanup
Yeah. So
because nobody wants my cooking.
we're really happy that Aaron signs for.
Although I was thinking that I have an idea of what I could cook next year, so we'll see.
All right. Well, we'll discuss it. But it is great. Everybody pulls their weight. And it's
Except for Scott.
except for Sky.
Except for
Yeah, Sky.
call out
The mood of the
Sky.
sky.
So Sky misunderstood.
It was his first time there. He didn't understand the assignment.
When
It
we-
was-
yeah.
It was just funny. I'm just
it's hysterical.
giving him a friendly jab.
There
There
was-
I am no shade.
There was plenty of food. The funny part about this was we said, okay, and everybody'd been before. For breakfast and lunch, you're on your own, right? But for dinners, here's what you need to bring. Sky thought that meant, we would go out for breakfast or lunch.
Oh.
There is no place to go out, Sky, for breakfast or lunch.
Where was this held at?
Cambria,
Cambria.
California.
Cambria,
Yeah,
California.
and the place is called. I don't want to say it because I don't want to give. I don't want
to keep it secret, keep
listen.
it safe. Yeah,
We go to a place.
sure.
Yeah, I gave up all the Space Hulk stuff, and now we can't get into Space Hulk at Adepticon.
And you're not even going this year. Or
Yeah.
next year.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're ruining it for me and Josh.
That's your
and
problem.
possibly Justin.
So this place we go stay though is tucked back in the mountains.
Yeah.
It's a windy ass road to get up there. It's
Ain't no Uber Eats coming out there.
No.
Yeah. Uber
Nobody-
airdrop.
The closest establishment is the Firestone Brewery, which is probably an hour plus away.
Oh,
GPS.
Jesus. Yeah.
GPS does not work in this area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's no cell signal at all.
Nope.
It confused my phone so badly that my phone would not pick up cell signal on the way down either. I had to reboot it while driving.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Got
Anyway, it was funny. That's a funny call out to Sky.
So this guy's
Who
like,
had a
I'm
great
sorry,
time."
can I have a sandwich?
There was so much.
No, there was
food.
tons of food.
Yeah.
But-
And
but then
that's,
I
again,
think
no shade at Sky. I just had to call it.
No,
out.
it's
friendly banter.
Yeah.
Because I'm Sky's friend. You're Jade's friend.
That's right. Yeah. Sky. So Sky's wife, Jade, like Sky was taking forever to take a turn, and I texted his wife, and I'm like, "Your husband's taking forever to take a turn." Next thing you know, she texts him. She's all, "I hear you're taking forever to take your turn." So it was a great time.
So much laughter.
But it is something like I would, and honestly, I named it and came up with the concept after hearing about Loopy doing something with his friends. They'd go rent a cabin and it'd be like 5 or 6 of them. Here, we went overboard. In fact, we had to pare it down because we just had too many people.
Yeah, we had too many at one
and I
point.
just couldn't find a house that could support that amount of people. And that's hard to do. It's hard to say these people are going to get invites, but these people aren't. So if you didn't get an invite, I'm very sorry, but I
Complain to Carl.
could not maintain. Complain to Doug. He's the one that organized all these things.
Carl at theindependentcharacters.com.
And the joke there is, and Doug Neal would appreciate this, but the joke there is at Doug's memorial service, Samina, his wife, stood up there and talked about all the things that Doug brought to the group, to the party in general.
Right.
Being a person, he was musically inclined, he was funny, yada yada, and he would organize these.
Was he?
And he would organize
was.
these Geekend things that all his friends would go to, and I looked around like, who organized this? So
Doug?
So the running joke was, well, Doug organized this.
Yeah.
Doug didn't organize it.
Pretty dialed in.
Now that said, he did kind of organize some Southern California ones for like 6 guys, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
okay. All right. Anyway, I'm not bitter about it at all.
No.
Peace and love.
Yeah,
and love.
exactly.
Well, it sounds like you guys had fun.
We had
It
a
was
great time.
Super.
That's
It was
all that matters.
great. Yeah.
We had a great time. We did miss Doug being there. He was always a big part of it.
Yeah.
But
Especially at this location.
Yep. But everybody had a really good time. We played tons of games. Like I was mentally burned out by the end of it.
I could imagine.
But yeah.
I
But
could
now
have
I'm
gone
ready
for
to
a
play
couple
more
more
games.
days because I missed a couple days.
Yeah, but you never get the game, and I game quite a bit.
Yeah, there's that.
All right. So listen, that's it for Hobby Progress. We went on probably way too long about that. If you're not, I could tell people if you're not interested, in this,
Timestamps.
skip forward.
This is the Jason Mullins Hobby Progress segment.
Sure.
He might actually listen to it with
Skip the whole
Geekend,
thing,
yeah.
or
By the way, our most popular segment. And Jason Mullins has been to Geekend at least once.
Yep, it was fun.
The weekend that I was sick the whole weekend while we were there. So, you know, that's the other thing. You got to be careful, right? You got that many people together in close
6 feet away.
proximity.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that
6
doesn't
feet
happen.
away.
Doesn't happen.
Okay. All right. So listen, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We're going to leap into the main topic of the show, which is the Warrior Lodge. And yeah, we got some good discussion about 40K actually coming up. So thanks for bearing with us. All right, and we are back, and we're going to kick it off with, and it's funny that I put in the
That
notes,
we're back?
show of force as opposed to
Warrior Lodge.
Warrior Lodge. So, you know,
220, 221.
whatever it takes. Okay, so the Warrior Lodge, for all those people who have not seen Mr. Ma, what this is a moderated discussion covering various topics within Warhammer 40K at the moment. And so they were questions and thoughts I had that I wanted to have a discussion with each of you about. And so the first one is Warhammer Plus. So this is year 2 of Warhammer Plus that we have just entered. Are you a subscriber? Are you a subscriber?
I am not.
Yes.
I am
Okay.
again recently.
Although
So-
I think this is year 3.
This is year 2.
So we've gotten 2 models out of it.
Which 2 models? You got the assassin.
And then we got
corn
the
guy, right?
big corn guy.
And what's the third one?
The third one they just announced.
They just previewed,
Right. They haven't.
not yet available.
Yep. That's the third year.
Listen, buddy, we've had 2 full years of
Yes,
Warhammer.
we've had 2 full years. Yes.
Aaron, why did I invite you to this?
I don't know. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
No, don't. Please don't. Please don't. Actually, I'm just giving you a hard time. Do you... Okay, so what made me come up with this question was the recent Pariah Nexus video, which I thought was phenomenally done.
Yes.
Really great. You know, there was... I posted about it in our Facebook group. One person in particular had said, well, you know, and I'm not going to do a lot of spoilers here, but maybe I will. Spoilers, skip ahead 5 minutes if you don't want spoilers about this, but hey, why is that IG person not doing anything? So Commissar needs to put a bullet in her head, blah, blah, blah. She's not really there. Like that was my, like, if you paid attention,
Yeah.
like it's a figment of the person's imagination.
It's a
Yeah, and-
memory go.
It's a memory ghost.
It's funny
actually
'cause-
her mother.
Carl posted this, and then I texted him when I finished watching it, not seeing the post, and I basically said the same thing.
Yeah. And actually, Adon pointed out something that I hadn't seen, which he said when the Necron Overlord, the guy telling the Deathmark what to do is
Cesares.
he's showing like, oh, look at all these, you know, look at these units go out, or these guys go out and kill them. Like she's never one of the pictured people.
Oh, that's
she doesn't.
true.
And Adon
Right.
pointed out, I was like, oh, you're absolutely right. So there's a lot of clues there. But anyway, off topic, sort of. Do you feel in the 2 years you have had Warhammer Plus that it has delivered what you were looking for? And Aaron, let's start with you on that topic.
Yes. So when they first came out with it, one, it's a way to support a company that puts out amazing stuff that we are way invested in.
Okay.
But two, the animations that they first promised were just phenomenal and something that we really wanted to see. Yes, we got Space Marine the movie. We'll ignore that for now.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't
like,
exist.
That was pre-Warhammer Plus.
The Astartes videos
But those were put out.
were fan-made beforehand.
So good.
But then when we heard that they got those people, or that guy, I think it was one person, to come and be part of Warhammer Plus and creating, I believe, part of Angels of Death, it sold me, right? I really wanted to see that progress with a little bit of money behind it to see what they could do. And they've come out with more than just that. The reason why I would be hesitant about saying yes is, and I think this goes to something Carl's going to say as well, it seems like there's too big of a gap between one series and the next. Okay, I get it. It takes a long time to produce these things. I'm not saying it doesn't.
And it's not cheap.
And it's
I
not
get that
cheap.
too.
Yep.
But I wish it was more often. Now, the Pariah Nexus, it's going to be weekly, we assume. Probably for 4 or
Where's
5
episode
weeks.
2? It's been out over a week, you know.
It's supposed to. I think it comes out on Wednesdays.
Okay.
But it's going to come out, and then we have to wait a week, and then
I'm okay with that. I mean,
after
a week
5 weeks, it's
yeah.
going to be done, and we're going to be like,
Now what?
now what?
Right.
Yep.
And then there's going to be a huge gap. Now, before I let anybody else speak, I'm going to also jump into the other stuff that they do. They do Lore Master, which is hit or miss for me, but they do the Masterclass stuff, which is awesome, right? So I still feel like, for me, it's worth my money.
What's it cost?
I was just going to ask that. Yeah, what does it cost a year? Like $100?
I think it's $60 a year.
No,
60?
I
think
40
You
to
can do
60.
it monthly, or you get a discount if you just throw in your.
I mean, $60
it's like,
in
you
Games
know,
Workshop money. It's kind of free.
$6 a month.
Well, and
or
you get a
something
free
like
model.
You get a model
And you get a
out of
model.
it.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, if you don't like that model, you can turn around and sell it and make your money right back.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yep.
Or give it to Carl.
Well, that's
That's
what you do.
what it-
It's chaos. Guy.
Chaos guy.
So, yeah, okay.
So yeah, I think it's worth it.
What about you, Josh? Do you
I'm
echo that, or do you disagree?
I echo that. I'm in the yes and no camp. The new battle app, the list building app, I think is a great addition to that. Like it's the best.
It's the best one they've come
It's
out
the best official app that they've ever had.
Yeah,
hands
absolutely.
down, for building rosters. It's very easy to do. The one thing I still wish you could do is just copy an existing roster. So like, here's my 1,000-point base. Now I'm going to make that a 1,500 point list, a 2,000 point list.
Right.
But they have already come out with some improvements towards that. Like, I
You
think
can copy a unit and
you can copy
use
a
that
unit. You
Yeah,
can
duplicate
modify
units.
the name of the list now. You
Yeah.
can change it from a 1,000-point list to a 2,000-point list. Like, you can change the
Nice.
bracket in there. So they are
But
clearly.
what you can't do is a 1,500 point list. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, not to nitpick on that thing, but it's like it's getting there though.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
and it's
you'll set it for
usable.
2,000
and,
points
Yeah,
and build 1,500 points out of it.
that's what I
Right.
do.
Yeah. Which is, it's fine. Yeah, that's a great value add, and that's not going away.
Right.
As long as you, even if you're a free user, right, you can still build one roster at a time. Where if you're a paid Warhammer Plus user, you can build as many rosters as you want.
Right.
For all your different armies, points.
So if you don't pay, you can only build one, and you have to delete
but
that before you
delete it,
can.
rebuild. Yeah.
By the way, you can export to text.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great ad. I will mirror Aaron's sentiment here in that I think that the release schedule of content is a little too slow.
Yeah.
I signed up right away when it came up, and I was just excited about getting that kind of content, getting the animation, checking those things out. And then went through those things very quickly, and there was a lot of downtime. So
I'll agree.
after the first year, I actually did not subscribe for a second year. And now with the battle app and some things, and part of that I wasn't as excited with the mini, the chaos. It was like an orc dude or the chaos mini. And I was like, I'm not playing these factions. It's fine. But just a couple months ago, I did re-up again because I knew there would hopefully be a backlog of episodes that I could watch for shows.
And you can kind of just binge watch it. And,
you can binge again.
Yep.
Or also having the Battle App access, and now
And then Pariah Nexus on top of that.
yeah, Pariah Nexus was some appeal to that.
That's top notch animation.
Yeah,
for
it's really well
like
done.
It's now we're talking. Right.
One thing I have really appreciated.
Although I did like the Blood Angels.
Yeah.
Which one was it?
Angels of Death.
Angels
Yeah,
of
I
That's
did
the one that's
enjoy
like
it.
all like monochrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the Hammer and Bolter episodes I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, they were fun too.
Yeah.
I recognize that animation is a lot less involved.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But some of those stories they tell are pretty darn good.
Yeah. Yep.
Working within that limited.
Right. Yeah. Some
framework.
of them are really just cool stories. And the one thing I was going to say is that I have actually found myself appreciating is the vault in there with all the old White Dwarf
Interesting.
issues. So there's the backlog of issues, so I don't have to keep a catalog of 450 White Dwarfs on there. Like I think 350 of them or so on them. Like a huge chunk are on there.
Interesting.
So you can go on there. And also there's old rule books, like the Inquisitor rule books on there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the rules in it, but it has all the lore out of it. So if you
Right.
just want to go read some old lore that's there, like it's on there, it's available. So
Yeah.
That's cool.
I found myself just perusing that when I've got some downtime. And be
Interesting.
like, yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah. I mean, the follow up to the question was, where has it not met your expectations and where has it exceeded your expectations? And I think the exceeding your expectations question of that, from my perspective, is the harder one to answer.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that anything there has exceeded my expectations yet. Like I've not looked at it and been like, holy cow, this is the best thing I've ever bought.
Yeah.
The Pariah Nexus I was very excited about because once I saw that, I was like, yes, this is a great story and the animation and artwork is fantastic.
How many episodes of that do they have?
Just
now?
one so
Just
far.
one, and
so
it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's
You
fantastic.
know what I'm doing after the
It's like-
show, Carl?
I'll show you.
on the Astartes level of like production quality,
Sick.
story, the
It's
whole
really well
environment,
done.
the picture that it's painting, which is it's really cool so far.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, the Necrons in it. I've never thought like Necrons are particularly creepy. I mean, they're all these soulless killing machines, blah blah blah. But this episode, you're like, oh, this I would not want to be that guy.
Cool.
Yeah, and the death
Yeah.
mark is
So
no joke.
So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, product. I do feel yes. I know intimately because I talked to the person that was in charge of this and moved away to do other stuff. And when they told me like, how much do you think it costs to do a season of Avatar, Last Airbender? And I'm like, I don't know, this much. And they're like, more. Like it's millions.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you talk about voice acting, then you got to do the art, then you have to do the animation, plus you have to then do multi-language sometimes. It's like, because it's incredibly expensive and time consuming. I had no idea that it was that. That being said, you opened a channel with animations. So it's like, you
got to have the content.
You
to
got to
back it up.
have the content.
Yeah.
And the Lore Master stuff is okay, but I do a podcast. I don't really, okay, that it's good, but that's not what I signed up for. And I think the majority of people signed up for the animation aspects of it.
Yep.
The fact that they've tied the army building app into it does not bother me at all. I think that's completely reasonable, and I understand what they're doing. A lot of people are upset about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you didn't see that coming, they
Didn't
told
they
you
announce it?
They told you right up front.
Yeah,
This
it's gonna be
is
free at
this is
first.
free for now.
In app, it said, You
Yeah,
get full access for a while.
Yeah.
So this is 3 people who pay for it. So I'm kind of curious on Justin's opinion about the app and that you have to pay.
Used it at all?
Haven't even opened it.
Oh, okay.
Man,
Why are you on the show?
I don't know.
Oh, right, because he invited us.
Justin,
Right.
because he doesn't. We have to have somebody who's not wearing
Point,
sleeves around
counterpoint.
here.
Yes.
Point counterpoint. I'm not doing it.
No.
Once I
just
get
giving
back
hard
into
time.
playing 40K,
You will-
I will
listen.
undoubtedly
upheaval-
pay.
The
For the damn
upheaval
app.
you have gone through, it speaks volumes. Is that a new tattoo?
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
new. I don't know.
I hadn't seen that one before.
Like 6 months.
Cool. All right.
But yeah, once I start playing again, which is soon, I promise.
Anytime, buddy.
I will more than likely pay for it
I
because
don't know
I've
if
heard
you know
nothing.
this, but I'm not working right now.
I know. I know.
I got
this.
some time, buddy.
Everything's coming back to
But you are
centeredness.
so, yeah.
You know?
Okay.
My chi is coming back to me. So
All right.
Good.
Okay. Great question. I mean, like, it's as it goes on, I think it gains in value, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've actually now kind of wanted to go back and watch some things I hadn't seen. I'm very much looking forward to season 2 of Angels of Death, right?
They're doing a season 2 because they did the prequel, the Origins,
Nope,
that were a few one-offs. I didn't know they were. That's awesome.
So, okay. So question 2. Justin. I don't know how much this is going to play. With the introduction of 10th edition, many models, especially Forge World models, have been moved into quote-unquote Legends status. This means that these models are no longer used for tournament-style events, but also will not receive consideration for updating their rules and points going forward. What are your thoughts on Legends? Are you open to using them? Where does that kind of stand with you? And then later I'll talk about some specific models, but Josh, let's start with you on this topic. How do you feel about this in general?
Yeah. I think I'm in an interesting spot because Sharkadons were built as a small marine army. Tyros is a Forge World character. They are a Forge World chapter. They are no longer officially supported in any shape, way, form, etc. Tyros model has been discontinued. His rules just make him a Terminator captain now. He went from a chapter master of his own thing to he's a Terminator captain. So there's some feel bad moments in there of the loss of the flavor and the lore and this amazing model. He's a little small in scale now compared to
awesome.
the way that everything is sized up. But the lore and that model were a big part of why I started that army. 12 years ago.
Sure.
And I do have other things for that army because I built this army for 5th edition. So obviously 5 editions later, the game has changed. So I'm like, I can't begrudge that. But like my Relic Contemptor Dreadnought, no longer a valid Codex choice. It is a Legends choice. My Land Speeder, Storm. Yeah, the Scout one. Land Speeder Storm is also a Legends unit. And I'm okay. Like, I'm okay using Legends. I have no issue with that. I'm not playing this army in a tournament or anything like that. I appreciate them progressing the model line, and like the new models that are coming out are incredible. And there's definitely a reason of why I'm now building the Primaris contingent of the Sharkadons, because we have the new models. They're going to be fully supported. I can do whatever I want with them, take them wherever I want. Don't necessarily need to have that conversation if I want to take them to a tournament or something like that. But the other models they're not invalidated. They're just more specific. But again, a game with friends, I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with them coming out to play. It's an interesting spot. I do kind of wish that Legends would get some support with points changes and things like that, because it's like they've dropped once and those things are going to be wildly out of balance. Especially in a year from now when everybody has a codex and points are going to have been adjusted at least 4 times by that point and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how they hold up over the years.
This is, I think, the major speed bump in the whole thing, which is you're really just discontinuing these models and you're discontinuing the support of them. And I get it. I mean, I on one hand, I get it. On the other hand, as you said, there's a feel bad about it. Contemptor Dreadnoughts in particular. I'm like, come on.
Yep. I converted up and like sculpted Chaos Trim on one of those ferrite termite drill things for my Death Guard. Press molded, and then it's like a month later, yep, sorry, gone. Can't use it. But no, I mean, in a friendly game, I'm sure if there's rules for that somewhere, like, hey, can I use this? Not a problem.
They've got rules, they got stats, and in a game among friends, like if we're finding this point, like this thing's way overcosted. Like,
we can come to an agreement.
30 points a year from now when everything has changed.
But it requires that, and it requires that gentleman's agreement in advance.
A, just the agreement. Is it okay to have Legends? And then B, can we do Legends with this little adjustment, because that seems to be in line with how the game is actually playing right now.
Just seems like a lot of work that I don't see many gamers doing.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
It's now a terrain piece.
Yeah.
4th edition, we
You know.
used to do that kind of work, but now it's like, come on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at the same time, just you still have a cool model in your collection,
And
right?
it's a stand-in
Cool.
as something, though, right?
It's a relic.
Relic, Contemptor,
They
Dreadnought.
look great in my display case. I'm building a Primaris contingent, so I've got that, and I've got other armies I'm working on.
But a Relic, Contemptor, Dreadnought can stand in for
A Dreadnought.
Yes.
Dreadnought, right?
So, yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, I've got like that Eldar Corsair army that, I put a bunch of work into. Didn't finish it, but like it was on the cusp of being finished, and then it was just like, okay, it's gone. But a lot of those units, like I could use those Corsair dudes as swooping hawks,
Sure.
or something, or that prince is now a
Yeah.
autarch.
Yeah.
know.
And I think the other interesting aspect of this is you have people like Doug who never liked to take characters,
yeah.
right? So and in some ways, and I'm trying to look at a silver lining of this, in some ways it opens you up to the freedom of saying, okay, Tiberius is a captain now, or he's my chapter master. I'm going to use these rules from this particular chapter master or captain or whatever for him, But I do get, like, I love Lord Zufor, right?
Yeah.
And he's discontinued.
Like, I'm not a special character player. Like, I love bringing my own characters to life in 40K. Tyros is the only special
only
character
one.
that I own,
Yeah.
and he just doesn't really exist
Right.
anymore. But also the reason that I have him and like got I just love that model, but because it was a 5th edition army, when 5th edition, the character really unlocked the entire army rule set.
Yeah.
Like you had to have Vulcan to make salamanders. You had to have Tyros to make sharks.
Right.
Like that's the reason that I bought the model, was because I love the model, love the lore, but then it also brought the rest of the army to life because of that choice. So,
Correct.
yeah. And the game has definitely moved away from that, and that's fine. Like I'm okay.
Yeah. Asterion Malak from the Minotaurs chapter, same thing. Like it's a great model.
Yeah.
Scale wise, he's showing his
tiny,
age.
yeah.
Yeah, he's showing his age now. But man, it's a beautiful model, and it used to have this cool stuff with the spear, and now it's all gone.
Yeah.
It's kind of been writing on the wall, though, right? Because Forge
Yeah.
World
Oh, for
really
sure.
has not had any new like 40K. It's all been
Nope.
heresy augmenting packs and
It's heresy. It's
Necromunda weirdos.
Necromunda weirdos, and
It's
then
heresy,
apparently
it's-
Old World too.
it's
they're
old
focused on
world,
the Old
and it's going to be specialist games.
Well, we've all played long enough to have our models actually just stop being supported in the middle of an edition.
Sure,
Right.
This is not the first time.
The
Warhammer
Necron
Fantasy.
Pariahs is the one that
Warhammer Fantasy.
stabs me in the gut every time.
the whole game.
Yeah, the whole game.
gone.
So the alternative of Legends versus just no longer supported, I vote Legends.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I mean, the point is though. Okay, now 11th edition comes out, and those are just completely forgotten.
They're going to be gone. Yeah.
They will not be updated.
Well, that's kind of the question is, in 9th we had, or 8th we had Legends that kind of continued into 9th. Are those things still in the Legends?
I don't know. I'd have to
I didn't
go
pay
back and look.
attention.
I somehow don't think so.
I think Carl's right here though, that the
It is kind of
the
the
next edition, like this is it. This is it. Period.
And I mean, look. I mean, realistically,
They've had a good run.
as a company, you can only support so many SKUs,
Totally.
and it's like,
yeah, but it's
and rules that interact with each other, and how do they feel different? I mean, this is the longest time why they didn't come out with the Leagues of Votan or Squats, because they were like, how are they going to be different than everything else, right?
I will say it's interesting how they've really separated all of the Horus Heresy 30K units, and like those are all Legends. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to play 30K, they're all there. They're all valid. Like even a Leviathan Dreadnought, which now had the new plastic kit and it's an amazing model. That is Legends for 40K, because I think it's just from a rules bloat standpoint. They don't want these different interactions. Like they want this model for this purpose.
Yeah. I also do feel like it's probably done to kind of support up and shore up the 30K line.
Yeah.
A bit. We haven't seen a lot of 30K product coming out,
Correct.
quite frankly.
Yeah.
Rules updates, FAQs haven't come out for it in forever. They just came out with a book, or they're just coming out with a book for it. I'm not playing it, so I'm not the expert to talk about it. But, I don't know how well it's supported. And so by siphoning some of this stuff off and say, look, this is just purely 30K at this point, I think it shores up that line a bit. Now
you could always proxy them though.
Of course.
That's kind of what we've always done.
Well, of course. And I think, Contemptor Dreadnoughts are great. I'm happy to proxy it as what's the chaos? Hellbrute?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Cool.
I'm building 2 of the new Primaris dreads, so
Yeah.
it'll also look pretty on my display case.
For me, the Night Shroud bomber is just a bummer.
Yeah.
I love that bomber.
There's a
It's
bummer to
so
all of it,
Nice.
to a degree. I mean, this is really, we're losing something. We're not gaining anything by this.
Right.
We're
Agreed.
losing something.
I've had
Agreed.
my Night Shroud bomber like 85% painted for 6
Ever.
years. Yeah.
It's.
Never hit the table.
I used it
Might
once,
not.
I think, once or twice, and it's huge.
And so this kind of leads actually into my next question, which is, speaking of your fantasy. Okay, so question 3. With multiple ways to play GW lines of games, from Necromunda, Kill Team, 40K, Horus Heresy, Aeronautica Imperialis, rest in peace, Age of Sigmar, Warcry, Legions Imperialis, and even soon to be Warhammer or Old World.
Don't forget Adeptus Titanicus.
Adeptus,
Don't you dare.
I did.
That's why I called it out.
Is the GW line of games too saturated? And I'm going to add, let me finish all these questions because these all kind of piece into discussion. Is it too saturated? Have we become a victim of our own desires? Meaning we always wanted all these other games. People still want Battlefleet Gothic. Okay,
War
here's
Master.
Battlefleet Gothic. Aaron wants War Master. More and
Do
more,
exist.
I find myself wanting to play all these games, but lacking the time. And if anybody should have time right now, it's me. How are you going to deal with the plethora of choices on what to play and how to play it? And Josh, why is that Legions Imperialis for you? and so actually, Justin, we haven't heard a lot from you yet because you're still getting your feet under you.
Mm-hmm.
But you also are, I didn't include Blood Bowl,
Right?
right? You are a victim of all these as well.
Yeah.
Like, is it too saturated for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Next question.
But it's also like when you go to the grocery store and you're looking at all the cereal, and you're like, okay, well, I know it.
Frosted Flakes.
This week
I
I
mean-
want this one. Next week I want
Paradox.
that.
Go get a coffee.
choice.
You're like, okay, I kind of know what I like. Like I know the rough flavor that I like, and I also know that I'm a grown man with a child and a full-time job, and I can only have so much time. So like, everything I do is just filtered to the point where I'm like, I can jump from one to the other, but I don't feel like I have to consume it all at once. And so I'm all for having all these choices because more choices hopefully means more people that walk into a game store or go to the Games Workshop website and they say that looks cool. I've never played 40K, but those airplanes look cool, even though that game's gone. Or whatever the case may be, like Warcry. I don't have time for a full game of Age of Sigmar or a full game of 40K, but Kill Team looks cool. Combat. I think it's good. Mm-hmm. For me personally, because I have the self-control that I don't need to play all these games. I mean, I don't play anymore anyways. What am I even doing here? Like Aaron said. But I think it's a good thing, as long as you're not like the kind of person that has to like that fear of missing out. You have to like know all this stuff and play all of it. But who has the time for that? Is it a bad thing to have too many choices in life? Is it?
Yes.
I'm just staring at
this
Justin.
guy?
Yeah, it's killing me. No, actually, you raise an interesting point, and there is literal studies that show, people don't want all this choice, right? Like they want a choice between a couple things, and almost want to be steered in a direction. Too much choice can paralyze a lot of people and frustrate people, especially kids, but even adults. Like you mentioned, fear of missing out. That's why I'm looking at you like, that's me. Let me tell you how bad my fear of missing out is right now. Well, first off, all that shattered star stuff I have sitting over there on the table, but two, I've made the active decision not to go to Adepticon in 2024 because I'm going to Australia instead. Right. I'm already like, oh, did I make a bad choice? Like,
you did.
Should I have gone to Adepticon? I know I'm gonna see these pictures and be like, God, it's killing me. It eats me up inside.
Yeah.
And Games Workshop is the expert predator on focusing on that fear of missing out. Like they are the apex predator of causing you to miss out on
absolutely.
This stuff.
And I mean, to your point, yes, it's oversaturated. Yes, we have to pick and choose. Do we? No. Right? Absolutely we don't. That's why
That's why we have credit cards.
the new Epic.
Oh, God.
I'm trying to avoid the new Epic. You guys are going to get into it.
Legions
and then
Imperialis. Even I know it.
Hey, he got it.
Legion Imperialis.
Legions.
No, there's only one.
There are 18 to 20,
Depending on when you've
depending
joined.
on what day it is.
But I mean, I'm going to try to avoid it. I was lucky enough to avoid Aeronautica Imperialis
Yeah, you were.
because holy cow, Necrons were expensive.
I'm so bummed. I'm so bummed out.
Hey,
I mean, look,
you've got
I've
a
got
playable
it.
force.
We can play it.
We can still play.
It's cool.
Legends, baby. Legends.
Hey, but I mean, to your point about still playing, old games we could still play. If you have the rules, if you have the models, you can still play it. So
But do you really? Not
yes,
not
we
often.
do.
Not often. Tom and
We-
who was it? Tom.
Legends of the Old West we
No,
played.
Yeah, but Tom at Geekend.
Oh, at
Tom
Geekend,
and
Travis.
Travis played that Eldar board
Doom
game.
of the Eldar.
Oh,
board
wow.
Game.
Yeah, they pulled it out and were playing it. They had a great time.
That's some early 90s stuff right there. Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. But, I mean, look, most people aren't going backwards. They're looking forwards in to the next hotness.
So the Legions Imperialis, I will probably buy some of, regardless of what you guys do, because I will use those tanks for BattleTech.
Okay, that's a choice.
Same scale.
Okay,
Totally different universe.
I know.
Yep.
Listen, I keep telling myself I'm not going to do it, but I know what's going to happen.
You're going to do it.
I
I
know
want
what's
to watch
gonna
this
happen.
played.
Freaking.
We've
well,
seen
I've already
it
got
over
the
and over.
Titans.
Look, yeah, I've already got the Titans. I've already got the planes.
Well, I don't have the planes because Eldar aren't part of it. And I get it. I get why. But
It's going to be amazing.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they expand it to.
So, Josh, what are your thoughts like
Xenos.
on the spread of this stuff?
Yeah, choices are good. The downside of this is if you don't have the community to play a game that you want because choices are saturated.
Yes.
And that's the game. Like there have been many people wanting to play Titanicus, but there's not the
Yes.
community for it because everybody else is invested. You only have so much time and money to give to anything. So if there are too many options and the option that you want to play is not
Available in
represented
that
in
area.
your area, that is a problem. But having those options is not the problem.
You know, that's a really great point. Go ahead.
No, that absolutely that's spot on, dude.
Yeah.
Because I think what gets us all excited to play is not just us sitting in our room reading the rules, painting our models, theory, hammering, but it's like our friends around us that are joining in that juice of just, we got to do this, man.
It builds up a momentum.
Totally.
Right?
And like, oh, did you finish? Are you working on that? And you play a game, and then it's like you got your butt kicked, whatever. And then you get that inspiration to build and paint new models, and it's.
But to your point, Josh, I have steered people away from Adeptus Titanicus, where I say, because people say, "Oh, I'm very interested in Adeptus Titanicus." Does anybody in your area play this, or do you have a friend that is also very interested in this?
Yeah.
Because if not,
Yep.
do not invest the money in it. Right. Most people are not going to start
Unless you're going to a lot of events and
right. But in general, most people are not going to start a trend.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got into this, so everybody gets into this. One of the reasons I chose Warhammer 40,000 over any other game when I initially got into it was because I said, what is the most popular version of a miniatures war game out there? Well, it's Warhammer.
You're going to be able to find an opponent.
And I knew that growing up as a kid and when I didn't have money to spend on it. And so when I did have that money, I was like, this is what I'm going to get into because I know it has an inbuilt support mechanism. I can go to 4 different stores in this area and find a Warhammer game if I really wanted to go that route about it, and I think that's why it hurt when people like Jody kind of fell off the bandwagon of it for a while and I was like, but Warhammer, it's forever. And then Aaron and I got to play
forever.
That's right.
But look,
Justin has tattoos, by God.
yeah.
It's forever.
And it will always come back. But like, even just look at the four of us here, and like we are making choices of what we're investing time and money in, not only in what we're hobbying in, what we're playing, what we're purchasing towards. Like I absolutely loved Age of Sigmar. I sold off that army. I don't play that game at all anymore.
I know. I got into it because you did.
Yeah, I'm
still glad I have the army.
Yeah. The games
you sold off your trees?
I sold it to Adon. Adon bought them all. But like,
they were beautiful too.
The games I was playing against Carl or against Jody, they were just always such one-sided games. And this is like,
Josh
this is
going
to sound like I'm humble bragging here.
Hobby.
Like I was too good for that game. Not what I'm saying. But they just ended up being such one-sided games that I'd rather play a game that's going to be more like, if I'm hanging out with a friend anyways, like let's play a game that's going to be a more enjoyable, close.
Have you played Warcry yet?
Here's my Eldar.
Have not. They're almost ready to. Yeah, right. Hey man, I'm gonna play them in a year when they're not as good.
You know what? You are. It hurts to actually play. Remember in 7th when Eldar were just like the
terrible
destruction.
Oh, in 7th?
Oh
yeah, they were.
Dude,
they were real
there
good.
was a point where they just got like way too powerful, and it was and you don't want to play that either. Like you want to play a army that.
The best games are the close games.
The best. I want to play my army. I want it to be tough.
Yep.
But I also
weren't those games so fun when I had 9 Venoms, Carl? Weren't those the best games of your life?
Those
were awesome.
Yeah, those were so
never
cool.
again. Dumb.
But like,
it still hurts,
point,
doesn't it?
Thank you.
So dumb.
I do want to play Warcry.
Yeah,
but like I'm not playing Age of Sigmar. I've stopped playing Kill Team just because I'd rather spend that time and effort going elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, eventually you have to. We have to make our choices on what we're going to focus on, and I think the thing is we've tried to ingest. Well, I have tried to ingest almost everything because I want to do it all. That now I feel like I can't keep up with this. And the funny thing was, 6-7 years ago, I remember talking to, I don't remember who it was at GW. I think it was John John French at that point, and he was like, this stuff is going to come out at such a fire hose rate. You're not like, they don't expect that anybody would keep up with it.
Right. Yeah.
Dumb me, try to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And you can't.
I mean,
you don't need to though.
No.
Yeah, you don't. But look back at the number of armies that we have, just the 4 of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. Hopefully there are not other people that have that many.
I don't feel like we are the general demographic
I hope not.
of most people.
Yeah.
Most people don't have a space like this. Most people don't have the amount of terrain. Oh my God.
Shame.
Dude, there was a time where I would go to these flea markets at Game Castle and I was like, singular focus. I want terrain. If somebody's selling terrain, I'm going to buy terrain. Now I've got terrain sitting there in boxes unassembled. I'm like, I don't need more terrain. You've got enough. I almost assembled the terrain Steve gave me over there for boarding actions, and I was like, this should not be a priority for me. I've got the whole painted Zone Mortalis sets, and I'm just like, I've got I need to focus on these other things before moving on.
Yeah. There's a reason why I gave you all the terrain, because I've got like 7 or 8 armies to do.
This is what I'm saying. Like, so there, I'm at a point where I'm now having to pick and choose my projects very specifically.
Yeah.
Bring back the Kanban board.
Hence the Black Legion. Oh, it's all on the Kanban board.
Never went away.
No,
Went through an update.
it's still
about
I
that
went
thing.
through there to update it,
Speaking
and I was
of
like,
which-
a bunch of these are still unpainted.
The hoodie lives, by the way.
Nice.
I gotta try
I
to
keep
get that.
forgetting. It's got a little scent to it.
Smells like smoke.
Psychic hoodie
Smells like
It smells like
Spirit.
war.
smells like war.
Yeah.
Smells like the warp.
Got a little Empyrean residue on it.
A little bit of Slanesh, but
Little
it
brimstone.
lives.
That's awesome.
Lives.
Oh.
So
I gotta get that back from you.
This is our only opportunity to do it. Justin has not played any 10th.
That's what I'm talking
It's
about.
on.
do it.
All right, I'm playing
My
Eldar.
first game will be do it. Just slaughter me.
I'm playing
Or maybe
Eldar.
I'll bring my Eldar. We'll be an Eldar on Eldar battle.
It'll be a super close game and really fun.
Yeah, totally.
No.
Be round 2. The game's over. Both parties are wiped out.
Completely obliterated. Well, that's a draw.
All right. Well, anyway, I just find that to be an interesting topic and an interesting question because there is so much out there.
There really
now.
is.
It's in some ways it's almost like you say there too much. All this choice is a good thing. I think it is. I wonder. And here's the longer term view of that. is it a good thing when things are coming out and failing on Games Workshop's part, or morphing into other things? And I present to you Aeronautica Imperialis as an example, right? The Eldar orcs are gone from those planes. Right now it's gone because it came out, it wasn't rocking, it wasn't selling well enough.
Yeah,
that was something I learned when I worked at Yahoo and we were shutting down business. I'm like, but this business makes millions. And they're like, yeah, but it doesn't make enough. Like, we could focus these resources elsewhere. And as it turns out, they didn't focus us at the right spot either at Yahoo. But that's a whole other discussion. But my point being, if it starts to hurt Games Workshop's bottom line and then they change it, the problem is you risk being invested in something that is then let go of, hence Warhammer Fantasy.
Right.
Warhammer Fantasy was not selling models. Was it making money? Yes. Was it making enough?
No.
No, not for us to continue to put the effort in there.
Not compared to much they're making with Age of Sigmar.
Thus, I give you Age of
The
Sigmar,
reset button,
which is making them more money.
It's going to be so interesting to see what happens with the old world.
I think it will draw. I think it will draw a number of people. I think it will end up being very much like Horus Heresy. That's my prediction.
Probably.
Right now.
Probably.
It's going to sit in a unique place for Games Workshop games. Like, there's no other rank and flank style game, so it will scratch a very specific itch.
Yes.
Some people will still have armies, and maybe it's not going to be wildly profitable, but it is going to be a very different game at the same time, and it's another good option to have.
Yep.
And the few models they have previewed look incredible. So,
One of the previous things that you have said repeatedly, Carl, is vote with your wallet. If you want a game to stay around, vote with your wallet.
Yes, and the problem is if you like a whole swath of games, there are going to be some misses here.
Absolutely,
is what's going to happen.
But if enough people are behind it and vote with their wallet, this is one of the problems.
Yes.
This is one of the things why Jody, when he was getting his Blood Bowl and then Blitz Bowl stuff going, he said, "We're only playing with the new models." I'm like, "But I have all these old models." It's like, "Yeah, you do. But
Right.
we're only playing with the new models." And part of that is because if you vote with your wallet and get the new stuff, then it's more likely that game will stay and keep going.
Not disagreeing
Then
with
those
that.
new models are pretty.
They are.
They are
Compared to
pretty
the old ones, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, what I'm saying is there are going to be some failures here. And I think there's going to be some pretty spectacular failures. Like, I don't mean in like a horrible way, but I think things that we think of as big lines will shut down.
yep.
I mean, the old world, right? It did.
Apocalypse.
Yeah. I think the more specialist of a game it is, the more likely it is to become unsupported.
Correct.
So, like 40K, it's forever.
40K is
going to
stick around.
It's going to stick around.
But
Sharkadons?
Not so much. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's why you have to stick to like painting Black Legion or Ultramarines, or
You're safe.
And you're safe. Good.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come right back, and we got a few more questions we're going to talk about here. So we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. We're going to continue with a little bit of discussion. We got some more topics here to run down, and I'm going to start with question 4 here, which is the Horus Heresy Black Library series is eventually coming to an end.
Allegedly.
The Siege of Terra is sort of wrapping up, as even though the final book has now been dissected into 3 books. I mean, when it was 2 books, I was like, okay, Dan has written a lot, and there's a lot to. And then it's like, oh, it's gonna be 3, and I'm like, you guys are murdering me. To get those collector's editions is so difficult, and I have to now get 3 more. I thought I just had to get 1 more. Is there a particular time, era, or topic that you would like to see Black Library cover to supplant the Horus Heresy series now that it is ending? Or not necessarily a overarching, theme like an era or something. Are there stories that you want to see them focus on, or directions you want to see them go at this point? And I can go ahead and start so I can see, your thoughts here around this, which is I'm very invested in the Siege of Terra, and I want to see how it wraps up. It's killing me that it's keeps stretching out because I don't know that it was intentional, but okay.
It's 10 minutes to midnight.
I do not.
George R. Martin's writing the last 2 books. So.
No, oh God.
Oh my God, you're killing me. So where do I want to see things go for Black Library once this kind of wraps up? To me, I actually do not want to see, and I've changed my kind of view on this recently. I do not want to see another massive overarching story point line. I don't need to see him cover, this era of, 40K that we never saw before or something along those lines. For the first time ever, probably because they've advanced the lore a bit in both the game and in the books, I want to see them go forward more. I don't necessarily need to see them move the story of 40K forward. Like, I don't need to see, we've now completed this crusade and now we're going. That's cool. I think the game should drive that.
Yeah.
And then I think the novels, the thing people often forget about 40K, and I've said this before as well, is that the galaxy is massive. Mm-hmm. Massive. I mean, we as humans can barely comprehend how big the galaxy is. And then there's millions of galaxies out there. When you understand how big that is, the actions of Dante or the actions of Marnius Calgar mean nothing in the scale and size of this. And I think too much time gets focused on these particular characters.
Yep. That's a big part of why I'm not a big special character guy.
And while I like occasionally having them on the table, Armin in particular, I really enjoy having on the table. Justin, you were just talking about how strong Chaos is. And you're like, you take Abaddon and 10 Terminators. And I'm like, yeah, but Abaddon's not at every battle. Right. I don't want to play Abaddon at every battle. One of the things I love about the Chaos Marines is you can play them all kinds of different ways and still have fun with that. The stories of Black Library, I think, need to focus more on smaller locations and individual battles or unique things that occur in certain areas. In particular, the other side of the Great Rift.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we need to see way more of what's going on there story wise.
Yes.
Like, Aaron Dembski Bowden started out with Spears of the Emperor, and for the first time ever, I got a sense of like, things are really jacked up on the other side of this line.
Yeah.
Like, this is bad. Like, it's post-apocalyptically bad on the other side of that line. Like, you thought 40K was post-apocalypse. This is post-apocalyptic. Post Malone, post-apocalyptic, down $2 million because he bought the One Ring.
Face tattoos are mandatory.
Yes. I would love to see more stories explaining what's going on the other side of Rift. The Blood Angels' home planet is on the other side of Rift. What's going on with them? You know? I mean, that can't be good.
It's gone.
Okay.
Just like The Rock. But like the Lion, it was interesting because they're showing what some of the spoiler Fallen were doing. And like they've actually resorted to piracy because there's nothing else for them to that's the only way they can survive. And that's really interesting of seeing like humanity's protectors as pirates.
Yeah.
Because they're stuck in systems.
And those were less like when I think of Fallen, I tend to think of Chaos Space Marine Fallen.
Right.
These were more like
Fallen.
These were more like renegade Space Marines. Like, they weren't necessarily out doing evil, but they were like, well, resources are scarce. If I'm going to protect this, we got to take this,
Right.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I want to see. Does anybody have any particular areas of Warhammer 40K or even Warhammer Fantasy?
So I totally agree. And not only that, I think they are going to explore past the Great Rift. Like, that makes sense for them to expand, and they've already started, as you pointed out. Mm-hmm. The thing I would love to see, being the biased Necron player that I am, is I would love to see more about the Necrons, the war in heaven, maybe the battle against Eldar. Like,
so you'd like to
took mine.
You'd like to go back.
I would like to go way back.
We're on the same page here. That was my answer. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure there's like demon, great demon battles that the Eldar gods, the Chaos gods, wrong mythos, the Chaos gods battling each other. You could do a book series on that. That's
Dude, hearing about like what the Necrontyr were like when they were fleshy beings,
Yeah.
more of that. Like,
and you get some of that in the Twice Dead King and stuff.
Yeah.
But I would think that getting some more of that would be really cool.
the Slan, like going into the Slan and
The Slan would be cool.
All the
or
creators.
the Zotes, some stories with
All
the
that stuff,
Zotes. Like the stuff that's way history for the game as well as for any lore that was in existence, and bring some of that back.
Can't believe you said War in Heavens.
It needs to support the model line first and foremost, right? Like that's what it's always going to do. So like a whole story about Zotes, I can't see a lot of people engaging with, but the Necrons and how they shifted, and like a story of how
Of the biotransference
Necrontyr went through would be very fast.
Well, and like the Catan coming out and saying, "Oh no, we could solve all your problems. Come follow us," and then screwing them. And
so aside from just Necrons, what you're talking about is really like ancient Warhammer.
Yeah, going back in like the original.
That's even before the humans
Yes.
existed.
Yes.
Well, for the Necrons specifically, yes, but
well, for a lot of these, for the Eldar,
Eldar,
the Eldar were around before humans existed.
yeah, absolutely.
So that's an interesting idea, like the birth of these races.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's lore that's existed for almost 40 years, but like you can expand and extrapolate upon that. I mean, it's,
you could tell
there's paragraphs written, but you can
person
tell,
on the ground view of how
like,
that.
get macro with it.
And not, to your point, not Horus Heresy level series.
No, but like a
four
book or
books,
two,
5 books tops. Just something to.
Just 4 or 5.
Just 4 or 5 books.
Aaron will squeeze it out, and
Typically, it's a trilogy, right?
Yeah.
So what is interesting about that though?
2 trilogies.
Well, if it's only Necrons, okay.
It's only Necrons.
Aaron, broaden
Eldar.
your horizons.
Sorry.
And Eldar.
But what's interesting about that though is, I mean, I can almost see it. Like, I don't know if like I said, when I originally was getting COVID shots, right? Like the first COVID shot I got was done at Levi Stadium where the 49ers play. And it was like, I felt like I was in a zombie movie. Like everybody was lined up.
And just
It was
slowly
like, how many
trotting
times have
forward
you
slowly.
seen this? Have you seen, these sci-fi movies where it's like everybody is required to go do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like we were all in line.
Yep.
It was all organized. The government was organizing the whole thing. Like it literally felt like something out of a science fiction
The whole
movie.
thing was a zombie movie.
But the crazy thing about it was that everybody was in such a good mood. Like, because if you were there, you wanted to get the shot.
Yeah,
it's
you were
like
there, you wanted-
everybody was happy. They're like, "You getting shot? Which one are you getting? I'm getting this one." Like everybody. But my point is, like, what happened with the Necrontyr? That how do you transfer billions of souls into this thing?
They hint about that in the Twice Dead King, where some people were forced and some people
Well, that's
weren't,
my point.
and some-
Seeing it from that perspective would be very interesting.
Yeah, it would be good.
Yeah.
Have they yet described like fully what that species, like what those people
What they
look like?
During the
I know
flesh
they were
times,
cancerous and
during the
tall
flesh
and
time.
gaunt
They-
and like,
they just hint at it here and there. They don't
right?
really,
Like it's never been
The Greys.
fleshed out.
Oh.
Like I would like to know more about the Necrontyr.
Yeah.
I really would.
But I mean, I think
They're described as humanoid, but just a very short lifespan with the
and the sun caused
The
these
radiation.
cancers.
Yeah, it's like
growth
cancerous.
and- yeah.
so.
Morbid.
Not to, buttonhole on that one particular race, but I mean that could be interesting to look at
Exactly.
all these various races and where they were, and how
Yeah, how the Eldar were created to fight the Necrons.
from a person on the ground eye view of it, right?
Yeah.
For example, Justin Hill wrote the Cadia series, and in the first book, you for the first time saw the fall of Cadia from somebody who was on the ground while that was going on, and that gives you a very different perspective from a codex that is like describing, oh well, and then Abaddon crashed this Blackstone fortress into the Cadia, and you're like, okay, but what did that look like from the ground is a whole different perspective. That's a very interesting idea. That's a very interesting idea. Josh, any thoughts for you?
Yeah, one thing I have been enjoying seeing more of is 40K told from Xenos perspectives.
Interesting.
Necrons with Twice Dead King is a great example of that. Even in the Belisarius Call, the great workbook, There's a lot of Necron perspective in there also, or just some more interactions in there.
Yeah.
One thing that I've really enjoyed reading, and there's only been a couple of these books, but it's the Warhammer crime series.
Yeah, quite good.
It's like, it's just your everyday people, some sort of law enforcement, something with a legality element to it, but it's like the super macro lens zoom away from the warfare, away from that. But like, things aren't great on any of these planets.
What is life like in the Imperium?
Right. And that, like, for me, that's been really interesting, of just being in this hobby, in this lore, in this world for so long, that doing more of a macro deep dive, and like, let's just really focus on just what the life is of just your everyday person on various planets. Like, that is interesting.
Dan Abnett was kind of the king of that originally.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what is life like on a general?
Yep. And I would love I think there's only been 2 or 3 of those in that series so far, but I've really enjoyed reading those. So I would like to,
you'd like to see him
I'd
expand
like to
on
see
that.
more of that. But then, also just alternate perspectives.
I would love to see, a book where, and this is incredibly hard because they're so alien, and I wouldn't say the whole book told from this perspective, but it'd be cool to have interspersed in a book, kind of from the perspective of the Tyranids. Like, I'm curious, like, it would be weird, right? Like there's
no.
Yeah, no, that's all it says. That was tasty. Let me go turn myself in. But but from like the Hive Queen's perspective, the Hive Mind's perspective, like,
poor author that has to write that though.
That would be super creative. Yeah, it may be impossible. It may be impossible, but it would be
we thought it was impossible to do for the Necrons, and then they
no, we didn't.
There's been a couple books that also have like shown Genestealer cults and like uprising of before the Hive Fleet invasions, and like those have been really fascinating to read. And
that would be really cool.
Yeah,
like how the patriarch they view as like this angelic being, Jesus, and it's like this big alien, guy, like,
or how their babies are
creepy.
All so creepy,
morphed, and they think they're just normal.
They're just beautiful little baby. Yeah,
the second Carcharodon's book like had kind of that Genestealer cult on this. I don't remember what they called basically a shrine world.
Okay,
that was like Sisters of Battle.
Yeah,
Sharkadon's Genestealer cult uprising and like kind of taking over from the sewers up, and it was just really interesting perspective to see that come to life and just more fleshed out than here's a bullet point of like Genestealer cults rise up.
Yeah, there was one of the Word Bearers. I think it was one of the Word Bearers books, the early ones. There was this story. As part of the book was this regular guy who was on the planet when like the Word Bearers take over, and he slowly, they corrupt him, and they're making him do all this. And he's like, I don't want to do. I'm against this. I'm against this the whole time. Finally, when like the Space Marines show up, he's trying to be like, hey, I'm not with them, but he's so corrupted at that point. They're like, look at that guy, kill him.
Yeah, he didn't even realize how far he had just fallen.
Yeah. I mean, not that his existence was pleasant. So,
right.
The Night Lord series, told from the Secundus, a human doing it, is very interesting. How one of them keeps calling the others heretics. And it's like, but you're with us.
Yeah.
And then, as the series goes on, you kind of accept it because that's all you know. And
that's such a great series, the Night Lord series.
I was surprised. It was so really well done.
Yeah, I just talked to him, asked him how his writing was going on the next Black Legion thing. He said, it's not good. He's working for the man right now. He actually works for GW right now. So so he's working directly for them, and he's cutting into his writing time significantly. So.
Yep.
We are much the lesser for it because I love his writing. Yeah. All right, question 5. Returning to our earlier topic of 10th edition, Games Workshop has clearly leaned into we are going to land somewhere between power level and points with the way that units are now costed in Warhammer 40,000. There are some pros and cons to this. It is faster to make lists, but you are unable to do things like build to an exact number typically. Typically, you're falling just short of it.
Even with enhancements or whatever.
Even with enhancements. Right, Since you cannot pad units out with specific pieces of war gear costing 5, 10, or 15 points or what have you. What are your current thoughts on the new system and how building armies is working? And then once you guys answered that, I have like a tangential question to that.
Since I haven't played, I think it's working out great.
But you've been building lists.
I've just been my finger on the pulse. Like I literally haven't built a single list because all my armies are still in boxes.
All right, Aaron.
But
how is this?
but following a lot of tournament players and things, I haven't really heard that of being a concern. You know, I mean, sure, your list might be 10 or 15 points under you know,
or 50.
50 could be an issue, I suppose. But also, I wonder, do any of you guys know, like with the recent points adjustments, is that still a thing? You know, with units dropping, it is still a thing.
Most of my
Across the
points
board.
for Thousand Suns went up, so I actually had to remove some stuff and
Sure.
change some stuff for my.
But as far as the
demons-
differential though, of like I can't make a 2K game.
No.
On the nose.
No, to me, there's this weird paradigm that I have. Like, is paradigm the right word? No. There's this weird gut instinct I have to build to that exact point because it's been so ingrained in me over so many years.
Right.
It takes an active, like,
Will.
to force of will to say, I'm 15 points under. That is okay. Let the 15 points go, Carl.
Right.
You know, it is, yeah. I mean, you know, the points adjustments came out and I had to make some things, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But for me overall, like I'm fine coming in under. If I can squeeze it out exact,
Even better, right?
but I think I'm more focused on how are the units going to support the other units before I worry about the points.
I also can't tell you how many friendly games I've had over my existence of playing this game. Where like, hey, dude, do you mind if I'm 20 points over? No, let me. Oh yeah, I could be 20 points over too. Is that cool? Cool. You know?
Yeah, but see, you can't. It's not easy to do now. Now you're like 20 points over. Oh yeah, well I'll stick a melta-gun on this guy. You can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you literally just have the enhancements, right,
20
to do
turns
that
into
fine tuning.
70 real quick.
Yeah,
There's-
yeah. There's not like a gradual.
Yeah.
It's either I'm 50 or I'm 10 points under. And to your point, like, what's the real cutoff? Like, there were times where I was like, oh, but my list is only 5 points over. I mean, surely Josh won't care if my list is 5 points over. And you know what? The reality is he probably wouldn't. Well, if 5 points is okay, is 10 points okay? What about 20?
It's a slippery slope, my friend.
It is.
Soon we're fighting, we're throwing stuff. At
After a while, you have extra vindicators. You know, it's just
listen,
That's it.
This is the world I live
Vindicator
in.
is too much. That's it. When you get a vindicator, it's too much.
that is it. Whatever a vindicator costs at
What
this
is a
point in
vindicator?
time.
Yeah.
So that's the threshold.
I opened up. I'd already made lists for Eldar, so 1,000-point list, 1,500-point list, 2,000-point list.
Yeah.
And after the points update, I tweaked a few things, and my 2,000-point list of Eldar was 2,005 points. And the only way to get under that is to drop 60+ points of a unit out of there. So there's no way to fill that gap.
Yeah.
Which is so there's this kind of weird gap of like, let's say like 50 to 60 points, where sometimes you hit that spot and you just can't do anything with it with the list that you have. So you really have to restructure your list.
You have to rebuild your entire list
to change things in.
Yeah.
So that,
or you have to say, I'm going to do without this.
Yeah.
Right.
unit.
so
it's
that's
tough.
the hard spot that I found. Is like there's a couple things like my Space Marine list. There's a couple things that like you hit that 50 point. Like there's a gap of 50 points and you can't get anything in that codex site unless you want to paint up some servitors. That's like the only thing that fits there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, so I was there with my Grey Knight list for
Yep.
Adepticon, and then they did the point adjustment, and then I'm like, oh, I have a lot of room now.
Yeah.
So then I was able to fix it, right? But now I'm 5 points under as opposed to 50.
5 points under feels like nothing.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. But no, I was literally 50 points under, and I couldn't figure it out.
What size?
1,000 points.
50 points at 1,000 is, it's a 5% shift. That's
It's steep.
significant.
Yeah.
So then my follow-up question, that the tangential
fix
one
this
is,
issue, right?
without fully embracing going back to points, because I don't think they're going to do that. Is there something we could be done to make you happy with the current system? And one of the things I saw thrown out as an example was, it'd be cool if I could spend 5 to 10 points to add a wound to a model. And the problem with that though is a wound on one model is not equal to a wound on another model.
Yep.
Like I'm going to throw that wound on my Lord of Change immediately.
Right.
My suggestion for something would be if you have 25 points, buy a command point. It's a
So-
one-time
exactly.
thing. You
Oh,
buy it
that's a
before the
really-
game. You
Yep.
get it. It's a one-time. You spend it. It's done.
Yep.
That's a
good-
pretty good idea.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
And if you bracket somewhere, so it's like 25 points, you can buy a command.
But see, the problem with that then, that you're going to have gamers game their army and be like, I'm going to be 200 points less.
Yeah, no,
but you have to put a cap on it.
That. Yeah, it's like max 2.
Max 2 or
Yeah.
maybe 3, but probably 2 is a better number.
I think 2's probably doable, right? And I think that's a very interesting and kind of elegant solution in the sense that it's already kind of built in.
Yep.
Like maybe we want to house rule some of that.
And maybe it's forced into just being like a command point reroll. You know what I'm saying?
Or,
like it's
or
not
core command points, right? Like just the book core command points.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Listen,
I'd be okay with house ruling that if you guys would.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I'm cool with that. I mean, the interesting thing is, you said something really interesting there just a second ago, Justin, was, players are going to game that anytime points are involved.
100%.
Oh, especially
They're
when
gonna
they're
game
tweaking stats. You kidding me?
Yeah.
Like that's going to be.
We will game, and it's the path of least resistance, the path of most reward. We will always try to take that.
I mean, I'm sure
It's Abaddon with 10
or
Terminators.
Angron, who's already unkillable, and then you kill him and he comes back, and then you kill him again and he comes back.
Wait, can I give him 3 more wounds?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
They've made Angron and Necron.
Nice. Wait a minute.
So yeah, no, I think don't let gamers change stats on models.
No. I think that I'm just giving that as an example. I love the
I think
command point.
it has to be
point.
a universal solution like that. There's either generic enhancements that you can stick on a unit, and it's not like you're not changing stats or anything like
Right.
that. Like this unit bought a reroll.
Or as armies come out, and I'm sorry to interrupt, as armies come out, you have just not to go back to full blown gnarly crazy 40k where you have too many options, but armies go from just having just a few more enhancements, and even if they're not the best, you still don't feel like you're wasting those points. Like, what enhancement most armies, because the Marines have their decks coming out, Tyranids officially have theirs. Did the amount of enhancements change from index nids
I don't know the answer to that question.
to new
Actually,
nids?
I think
No?
there are a few,
I don't
actually.
believe so.
They're around 5 or so, right?
Yeah, I think there's more than the
There's
3 or 4 that are
there's
base,
probably
but
8 or
there's-
so.
I mean,
It's only a few more.
it's a slippery slope, right? To go from
But
like
the other, the way enhancements work is that you can only put them on characters. So if you're not having a character heavy list, like you just don't have the slots to put them on there.
Yes.
So then that's where you end.
so you come out with maybe a few squad enhancements, but then maybe
So that's like some universal thing. Like you get a command point, you get a reroll, something like that. That this
Right.
squad specifically bought a reroll.
Well, I remember talking about points and power level with Robin and those guys. And one of the interesting things that they had said at that point that I had never considered before was if you look at points and you say, okay, a power fist costs you 25 points.
who's wielding it, right?
A power fist on a guardsman versus a power fist on a space marine are two entirely different things. Should they still be 25 points? So, I mean, it's so,
There's a lot of layers.
this
in
is
there.
why I really like this command point solution. 25, if you're short 25 points, you get an extra command point,
It's okay to burp on this podcast.
No, please don't. But I
chew hard
think
candy.
that's ideas like that are very elegant solutions. There may be even more, but the command point one is, I would totally house rule that right now. Like,
Yeah.
if you're 25 points, for every 25 points, you get a command point up to 2.
Yeah.
Because you can, if you're going to 75 points, you can fit
You can
unit
fit
in
something in there.
Right.
Hopefully, yeah.
Right.
Every army has something for 75
I believe
points.
so, but it would be an extreme if you couldn't, right? And then
Maybe
you take the
knights
2
don't.
and then
Right. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
knights don't.
but then you take the 2 and you write off the rest.
There you go.
At least you get 2.
There you go. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I really dig it. I dig. Okay. All right. Josh has solved 40K.
Yep. Hire that man.
There you go. Okay. Final question. Here it is. All right. The balance changes took place about 3 weeks ago from this date. 3 to 4 weeks ago now. We don't have any data yet from events to show us how the changes have impacted the overall meta. But what are your thoughts so far on the changes they've made? Did they go far enough? In what cases did they not go far enough? And in which cases did they maybe go too far? Any thoughts there? This guy here, Justin's got his finger on the pulse
Been watching some YouTubes
of battle reports. In particular, you were talking about Death Guard and how you felt like now they're super strong because they went from bottom of the pile.
Death Guard went from really laughably just
bad.
Really bad. I mean, first off, you couldn't even take like Plague Marine units in 7. Which,
Listen,
come on, that's going to instantly lose you the game because Papa Nurgle's going to
he's going to get upset. But listen, I came from when Tyranids were bad. Remember we ran that campaign and it was versus Tyranids,
Sure.
and Tyranids were an uphill battle. I was like, maybe Tyranids should get 20% more points.
Yeah, no, Death Guard got like huge points decreases. A lot of the units that you were expecting to kind of go up didn't. Like the Plague Burst Crawlers and Mortarion. Don't quote me on this, people. I'm probably wrong. But they didn't go up significantly enough that you weren't going to take them. They added these 3 choices of poison toxins you could use to like tailor before every game to
That
who
didn't exist before.
They gave them a whole new, brand new 3 poisons to choose from. Oh, I'm playing an OBSEC heavy army. Well, now, you know, if you're within range of my miasma, you're OBSEC -1. Like that's huge, right? Probably and that's the weakest of them. You know, and
That's very similar to the Thousand Sons have like 3 things they can choose from each
game,
round.
right? You don't have to factor it in.
Actually,
Like I'm going to a
Thousand Sons-
tournament. I don't have to state that I'm using this rule. Like
In the Thousand Sons, you actually get to pick each round.
in each game, right? Or
Each round in each game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this
But it is similar. Like you have 3 things that you can choose from. You can do this or this round, right?
huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and just the ability to play. Oh, I'm playing Eldar. I'm playing Orcs. I'm playing Necrons. You know, like to use this ability, and they're all really good. Like the -1 OBSEC is the worst of them. And then from what I've heard from I mean, Eldar definitely with the changes to devastating wounds, that was huge because that was just
Made a huge difference.
that was pretty nonsensical.
Josh, can you explain that a little bit? Because it took some explaining to me, and there may be people on the podcast that don't understand why those devastating wounds were so devastating, for one, and what the change actually means.
Yeah. So the big issue with devastating wounds in the past was they actually changed how mortal wounds are working now. And that devastating wounds were dealing mortal wounds, which were spilling over to multiple
They'd flow
models.
through.
So
Yeah.
if you had the Wraith Knight as the prime example with its giant anti-tank lance that does 2d6 damage, if you shoot that at a unit of guards and you use a fate dice to make that a devastating wound, you're doing 2d6. You're just removing 2d6 models.
So you have a weapon that was really designed anti-armor, wiping out units of infantry.
Yes. So the fix that they've implemented here is that devastating or mortal wounds now will ignore invulns and armor saves, but they do not spill over. So only one thing is getting killed.
He's got 2 guns. He hits those guardsmen.
Yeah.
He's killing
Kills
2
2
guards.
guys. Yeah, not
It's a big
not an
difference.
effective use.
Huge
of that
difference,
weapon.
yeah.
I mean, he's still effective at hitting that tank or that big monster
because
or
that-
whatever.
like,
but like,
But that's what he's designed to hit.
The
what
Wraith
it's designed
Knight
to
was
do.
really the problem, and it was his weapon gets D3 shots, and then if you get 3 shots, you hit and you wound with those 3 shots, you're doing 66 wounds.
yeah, it was ridiculous.
Which
that you could
is-
automatically just make, like you said,
D6, not 66.
6d6.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, so up to 36 wounds of just obliteration.
yeah,
crazy.
remove that
Yeah.
squad. Yeah, and the changes to towering as well.
Yeah, that was a big change also. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and jacking up the price of Wraith Knight to like 500 and something.
510
points.
points.
It's crazy
They're
expensive
pricey.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a shame. It's a great model, and I'd love having my army, but
That Wraith Knight, since his inception, has just been up and down.
yeah,
They just can't quite get it right.
They just can't quite get it right. Yeah.
Any other changes there that kind of leap at you? I think they've made some changes to Space Marines, and in particular the way that, and while this is more recent in the introduction of their codex, the way their
the preview of the codex. Yeah.
yeah, the way their
Oath of Moment.
Oath of Moment has changed
Yep.
is not quite as powerful as it was before.
I think it'll scale better in smaller games that way.
It just
think
rerolls
so, too.
hits instead of hits and wounds, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah,
See, I
correct.
play this game.
Yeah.
Hey, you know
Yeah.
what's going on. You've been playing it in your head.
One thing I'm really happy to see is that melee units, from what I've seen, the few indexes and that I have looked at for the points adjustments, melee units across the board, from what I looked at, all went down,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
which helps.
Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's great to say, drive me closer, I want to hit him with my sword. But the reality is guns came out for a reason.
Yes.
And so
My sword could hit you from 20 feet away.
exactly. So, I mean, in order to make that a really viable method of combat, you're going to have to make some adjustments.
Which, like, I mean, and I fully admit that I'm playing Sharkadons on hard mode because I am building it as an assault marine list, which is not what Marines are really known to do, but it's super fun to play. So now I get more bodies. I can get more options in there.
Listen, when I was playing World Eaters, I know exactly
Yeah.
what, exactly how on the back heel I was. You
Yeah.
know? This is before World Eaters had a codex, right?
Yep.
So, interesting. Okay. So,
From what I've heard, like it's been a good change. Like I've listened to like lots of Games Workshop main tournament, big tournaments, grand tournaments, and just so many different armies you hear about winning these things. Like Chaos Space Marines just won this big UK event. cool. Like it's not just Eldar winning everything or whatever the big bully is. Like it seems like
I like that they're adjusting to that. Like Knights, definitely with towering adjustments and devastating wounds adjustments. That's helped bring Knights into that more kind of the sweet spot that they're trying to get things. Eldar have, I think, definitely been roped in a bit. Maybe I don't know if it's enough because they're still really good at everything, but the Wraith Knight has certainly been addressed. I think between the points and the change of the wounds there.
I think their fate dice mechanics a little too powerful.
I mean, it's still a powerful army because every single unit gets a reroll. They get to reroll a hit and a wound every time they do anything, which is very powerful. Yep. Then you get the fate dice on top of that. Then you get devastating wounds with multiple different things. Like it's still a really powerful.
Like I said, I see exactly how it happens. Right? They're like, well, Space Marines move 6, but Eldar are supposed to be faster, so they'll move 7.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, you know what? And they're also more in tune with psychic things, so they should reroll. Yeah, that makes sense.
But they're only toughness 3.
And the next thing you know, they've advanced so
they're
far.
Amazing at everything.
Yeah.
Like they should be.
Except getting shot. Yeah. Once they're shot. But don't worry, they're going to shoot further than you can shoot.
And they're going to move, shoot, and then move into cover.
There you go.
But the Necrons are supposed to be able to take out all the Eldar. So the Necrons should be better than the Eldar.
Maybe the Eldar trained for thousands of years while the Necrons were sleeping on it.
Hey, we were tired.
Listen, it's like Aston Martin versus Red Bull in this latest. Only my F1 fans will get that one.
Got to get the F1 in.
But Aston Martin started off so strong, but just failed on development in their car. Now they're down weak again.
So. It's just never ending.
Yeah. I think and I think that's actually the point right there, Justin, is that it is never ending, and it's not going to change anytime soon.
And the question is, do we want to go back to the years of the Games Workshop on the Iron Throne saying like you're going to suffer through this codex for 10 years?
No.
You know what I mean? No.
But like it is better
back
now.
To your question about are we like just swarmed with choices of games to play? Now it's like now we're a little bit swarmed with keeping up to date with these changes.
Yes.
And that's just
this concerns me too, though. Like a lot of this all just came out, and you just mentioned the Death Guard got basically an entire new rule with 3 different options. It's like, look, clearly the index cards of these units, like this was all half baked.
Yeah.
It was.
We're still index hammering.
We got to be able to play it.
Yep.
Is it going to be the perfect play? No. It's not. Like it was clearly.
But it's going to make people able to play their models.
Yep. Yes. Now the problem is investing right now in a particular build, and this is why chasing the meta is a real bad idea at this point in time.
Never going to be a good idea again.
Is not a good idea because things are going to change so much. Like I imagine by the time the Death Guard, and I don't know what the schedule is, but by the time the Death Guard Codex comes out, imagine how different they are going to play and be from the index.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And hopefully every unit's good, but if you have built a list and you're banking on that list, sorry to hear that, because that's not going to be the list you're going to play when that codex comes out.
But if you're chasing the dragon, you've been through this.
Well, you're tournament playing.
Right. You're tournament playing.
Yes.
All you care about
Which
is
is
right
fine.
now. You sell off stuff and rebuild it.
Which is fine. Just be aware that
If
you're
you have
doing
a good year, you have a good year, but
Yeah. Just be aware of it.
from a
It's like an abusive relationship being into 40K, you know?
it can be.
It's just like there's highs and there's lows, and sometimes you're just getting slapped in the face and cigarettes put out on your neck, and sometimes, you're in Maui.
Good God.
What just happened?
Surfing.
ran
That was
away
a bad
with-
analogy.
she ran away with your dog.
We're not in Maui right now. No. Sometimes,
you can be in Maui, just not in line.
just not, yeah, right.
Unfortunately.
But you just have to be able to take the blows, you know what I'm saying?
You got to be fluid. You got, like Bruce Lee said, you got to be like water, right?
Yes.
Like be prepared. If you're chasing that meta, be prepared that you're chasing a meta.
interesting, like even talking about it right now, because this is a very small snapshot. 3 months from now,
Oh yeah, it's totally
it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So everything like you have to really, frame it in such a way that, here in September of 2023, after the first update has changed, like this is where it stands.
And it's going to be, I'm really interested, like for the first time ever, for me, I am really interested to see what happens, because prior to this shift coming out, they showed you, here's the meta. Eldar are winning 76%.
Yeah, they literally have that meta watch thing.
Right? Like
67.
Okay.
Good
sorry.
God.
Sorry.
That's very different from 76.
Yeah, totally. The next closest was, I'm sorry, what?
I don't know, 50.
How bad do you
57?
52.
It's a, how bad do you feel after this game barometer?
That was my look at
Hey, Thousand Suns are up there, man.
yeah, because other people are playing them than me, clearly. But anyway, my point being, I'm curious to see what that percentage comes down to compared to where it was, because it's cool that they can actually see this data and go, "Oh, we've got a problem." Like, Death Guard. Oops, we really made some mistakes here. Let's correct those mistakes, and that's actually the one thing that I will say, as abusive as this relationship can be, at least they're trying.
Right.
Yeah.
They're in counseling.
They're in counseling.
I called out in the last episode that Games Workshop has historically double corrected. Like if there's an issue, they'll do 2 things to correct it, and just like that's dead. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore.
And by that you mean they adjust the points and change the rules at the same time.
They nerf the rule and increase the points at the same time. Which and that's just they've done this for as long as I can remember. With these updates coming so quickly, so now we're getting a quarterly update. Even if they do kind of the let's take it back 2 steps from here, but in 3 months we're going to adjust it. I think there's going to be more of that. They're going to find that sweet spot by
guide into it.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, they might overcorrect, and then I think they will swing back and find that correct middle ground. And
I'm just curious how much collateral damage happens in the process of getting that point.
As we get more and more codexes and more updates come out, and I mean, just more games are happening. I mean, we're all playtesting all the time, right? They are listening. They're taking this feedback. I think, ideally, with all this information and adjustments they're making, we're going to land in a pretty sweet,
I hope so,
kind of balanced point.
How have the points adjustments made their way into the app? Like how
as soon as the app updates,
is it just boom?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a couple days, but yes.
Okay, cool.
As soon as your app updates,
yes,
it's in there.
Cool.
So you may have to force that update, but it'll be there.
Cool.
And that was actually overall pretty smooth last night. It took me about 24 hours to get the updates, but they were in there.
I opened up the app and it had it all built in right there already with like,
and then it showed you, here's your list. Your list is over. Like even your list that you had built previously
auto-adjusted.
were all auto-calculated.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Again, going back to the Warhammer Plus thing, it was kind of worth it. Like to quickly see, I got to change this.
Yeah.
And I was able to, I was able to quickly bring my lists under control and get my bonus command points.
Have you played a 2K game yet?
No, that's actually my next step.
Cool.
Yep. So we've been playing 1,000 points. I'm ready to bump it up to 1,500 to 2,000 at this point. Yep. So
let me know what you guys do. I'll come by and watch.
Yeah, for sure. You'll see some really bad playing on my part. That's cool. Yeah, I mean it's interesting the changes and that kind of thing, and I mean I hope it leads to an improved point. I can't see how it doesn't. I feel like as sometimes crispy as I can get about it and be like, this is changing and blah, blah, blah. Like, I would rather have this than, hey, my Dark Eldar Codex hasn't been updated in 13 years.
Sure.
And a lot of people playing right now don't remember those days. Like, we're playing with, I think it was Sky was like, well, I only just started playing in 9th or 8th. And he was like, I didn't realize.
I think he's played like one game of every edition.
He was like, I didn't realize like the lore was advancing. Like I didn't know what it was like before. I'm like, oh yeah, this has changed significantly.
Well,
yeah.
A lot of people playing now have gotten into the game in early
last couple
8th, 9th, 10th, and don't know that, man, if you think you're waiting a year and that's a long time for a codex, buddy, you didn't
see nothing.
You wouldn't get codexes for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Except Space Marines.
Space Marines every other year.
Every 2 years.
Yeah.
Old Faithful.
Yeah. But boy,
got to keep the lights.
And when you get your codex, it would be the best thing ever or the worst nightmare because you knew you weren't getting another one forever.
You're stuck with it for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'd rather have where we are now with the quick adjustments, them able to push out points adjustments through the app and even rules changes to the app so that you can see, this has changed. You won't be as dependent on that physical codex anymore.
No, yeah. I swear with the data cards, the app, just everything being available, and your physical codex, like even if they adjust a detachment rule set, that is one page. Everything else is going to be the same. Like if they add 3 abilities to a Death Guard army, like that's part of that one page of detachment rules.
And you know who got me over this was, don't be afraid to write in your book.
Yeah.
Or make adjustments.
Adon.
Like, go ahead and write it. Adon got me over that. I was like, writing a book, that's insane. And he's like, It's your book. It's a
It's
reference.
your tool.
Well,
it's
Who are
your
you going to give it
reference.
to?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, you're right.
What have you done to your old books?
I throw them out.
Exactly. So just write in them.
I should have written them.
Yeah.
So I am not opposed. Do not. I would say don't get yourself into that mental state that I was in.
Just don't throw away the dust jackets.
Yeah, keep
Don't-
The
those.
slip cases.
The slip cases. Don throws those away.
They make great coasters.
Man, Don, that guy.
All right. Anyway, we're on that note. Sorry, Adon. It's Aaron. What are you going to do? We're going to take a short break, and we will be right back to close out the show. All right, we're back to close out the show. So we just got a few final messages here. Pretty soon, Josh, I'm going to need your help to photograph Doug's miniatures. We're
Oh,
gonna-
yeah.
figuring out how to do the lucky draw for those miniatures. We'll be selling tickets to try to buy quite a few very nicely painted armies.
We can start some of our turntable army features.
That's right.
For those also.
Oh, that's a great
Wow.
idea. Yeah, we got some new stuff coming for the video feed that Justin and I have been working at. Or Justin. Oh, so far without screwing up a J name. Jody, Justin, Josh.
There's lots of J's. Jerks. All of us.
Yeah. Anyway, we got some new ideas that Josh and I have been working on for the video channel. Again, we keep saying that, but we're much closer to actually filming those. We're just setting aside some time for that right now. Again, leave us a review on iTunes or whatever your podcast app of choice is. We do appreciate the reviews, and we do go and read them. And well, I go and read them, and then I tell Josh this one was bad or good. And we do have a Facebook group. And the last thing I'll say about the Facebook group this time is if you are already in the Facebook group and you want your friends to join, please just tell them about it and ask them to join rather than sending them the invite. We auto decline people who do not fill out the questionnaire on the survey. That saves us a lot of spam. And almost daily, we're blocking a spammer from trying to join the group. So I don't really believe this guy down in this place is playing 40K when there's nothing on his website, his Facebook thing about 40K.
See, I stopped even checking their Facebook
You just
page.
decline it?
I just decline
Sometimes I do out of, morbid.
when people are invited,
I try to see
yeah.
if it's like a fake account, and a lot of times it's a fake account. So
Yeah.
anyway, and we do have a Patreon. If you are supporting our Patreon, you're already aware, especially if you're at the Inquisitor level, that we've released our first episode of our role-playing Dark Heresy episode, which I got some great feedback, and actually some good feedback for Shell to give her. She was excited to hear.
That's
that.
right, yeah.
She's very nervous about being on
she did
that,
great.
but she did great.
it was fun.
That will only get better as we improve kind of the sound quality situation there. I'm working on a couple things there. And then we have the bonus episodes that are coming out. And actually, I'm supposed to set up time to interview John French recently to talk about the Dark Heresy game and how he saw it going. But we're releasing some great content on there. And I've got in discussion with some other folks for the influential faces of 40K series there, people who've had a tremendous impact on Warhammer 40,000 from the community perspective. So we've had some great conversations there, and I got some more of those coming up too for next month. And we're coming up in next month pretty quick at this point.
Yep.
Nice.
So I mean, that's all I got. Do you guys got anything else you want to share before we
It's always fun to
Justin,
hang
it's
out with
been
you
good
guys.
to see you, man. We haven't
It's been
seen
good to see you
in
guys.
forever.
Yeah, I'm
People are asking, where's Justin?
alive.
Is he not around anymore?
Still shirtless or still
Whoa.
sleeveless.
Hey, easy there, Tiger.
Those are for Patreons.
Oh, really?
Icy's after
Okay.
Doug.
Yeah. You've heard it here first,
Yeah.
Justin.
No, everybody, I'm coming back. Be patient with me.
Shirtless on the Patreon. Okay.
I'm slow and steady. I win the race.
We're looking forward to seeing you throw down a bit, man.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
stoked.
We miss you.
We'll make it happen.
All right. So until next time, this is Carl,
This is Josh.
It's Justin.
This is Aaron.
and we're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where the discussion is always positive and informative.
You're never spoiled for choice. We're in the golden age of gaming. Everything's perfect.
Wow.
That was short.
The time of the Death Guard is now. and me playing a game as well.
Where your spare points could be converted to command points.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Winner.
I like it. Winner, chicken dinner.
Is that a house
Stole
rule
it
now
from Josh.
officially?
Listen, if you're playing me, that's the rule.
I'm good with it.
That's the rule. All right. Well, listen, we'll see you next time and for episode 225. And until then, please stay safe and have a great time gaming. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.